part about anything else.
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated, yes.
To our favorite shows.
Oh, my circuit!
Everybody loves Hypnotoad.
Scary dog!
Dancing at Blurnsville.
Futurama!
Good evening. You are listening to a Radulich and Broadcasting premiere podcast, TV Party Tonight. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And tonight, we are reviewing Wrestlemania 37, nights 1 and 2. Joining me in that endeavor is one of the Podsmen. The other one is trapped in a boardroom somewhere, forced to make presentations against his will, and he will not be here. That's Chris Bailey. We love you, Chris, and we miss you. However, holding up both his end and Chris Bailey's end, he's got them both on his shoulders like Atlas himself. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Sheehan of the Cosmic Treadmill, X-Laps, and from Claremont to Claremont. How do you do, sir?
Hey, one Chris is stuck in a boardroom and the other Chris is stuck in a room bored. So I'm here. We're going to talk about the long weekend here. Very excited to do this. It's not often. I mean, WrestleMania is just once a year. So it's nice that it's in the rear view, and it's nice that we get to talk about it. It's nice that people won't be pointing at a sign for a little while.
Yeah, I'm over that.
Yeah. Poor Bianca's still pointing to something.
There's a picture that was floating around on Twitter there for a little bit of some attractive young lady standing in jeans and pointing at something, and everyone's like, she's going to WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because she's pointing, get it?
Yes, and it's become a meme at this point. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, when WWE finds something that becomes a meme, they really it's like that old joke where, like, if a bit of pop culture or internet humor winds up on The Office, it's done.
Right.
You know, it's like, oh, they're doing planking or they're doing parkour. Okay, that trend is over now. WWE just goes even further than that.
Yeah, WWE is really the high water mark for once it gets to that level, it's over and not cool anymore. If it was,
and it's been dead and buried. Yeah,
yeah, it is definitely the old out of touch uncle at the party, Uncle Touchy. WWE Uncle Touchy,
Uncle Bad Touch.
Yep. All right, so just a couple of notes here about this year's WrestleMania. It was 2 nights, and it was 2 nights because we're still doing the social distancing thing. You know, we talked about NXT Stand and Deliver yesterday, and that was 2 nights because they wanted, people to transition. It was a marketing thing to get people to transition from,
zhuzhing the Peacock.
Yeah. Oh, everything's on the network, now everything's on Peacock. Just, their rollout was Fastlane was still on both, and you and I are sort of steeped in this stuff, and even sometimes we don't always have the details. You can imagine people who are, like, super casual about the WWE, who, like, went to their network and, like, directs them to Peacock, and they're like, what's this? Some sort of anthology? So, like,
I envy those. I envy those people for their casualness and their well-rounded lives.
People still they the one streaming service they have is Netflix. They don't know what any of this HBO Max or Peacock or Paramount Plus. It's like, what the hell is this shit? Like, I still watch the 6 o'clock news.
Yeah, let me adjust my rabbit ears.
Exactly. So that, as you said, that was to zhuzh them over to Peacock and get people sort of used to that, and that was NXT. WrestleMania was 2 nights because they intended to have fans at Raymond James Stadium, and Raymond James Stadium is, I don't have it up right this second. I think for football,
like 75,000, 80,000, right?
Yeah, something like that. Capacity. It says 65,000 from 2016 to present, expandable to 75,000.
There you go.
So they can't fill up the stadium. We're still social distancing. The vaccine's still rolling out. Many people have at least had the 1 shot, but not everyone has had the 2. And there are some people that still just refuse to get it entirely. So we're still doing the social distancing, in which case we couldn't pack them to the rafters. So in order to sort of maximize their
attendance
over
2 nights. Yeah,
they stretched it to 2 nights. Plus, it's a win-win for Peacock. That's everyone that was going to watch WrestleMania will watch both nights on Peacock. So, they get as many. They got I think on according to the wiki, on night 1 they got 25,675, and night 2 they got the same thing. So they had over 51,000 people there, and that tells you everything you need to know. You know, nearly everyone they could get in the stadium on one night they got over to, and that's just the way it has to be. Next year in Texas, you know, and I want to get your opinion on this before we head into talking about the show proper. There has been the last time I went to a WrestleMania that was not in a studio or a gym, close to the public, was WrestleMania, I guess 35 in New York. That was the one that was headlined by Ronda Rousey, Charlotte, and Becky Lynch.
Gotcha.
That ended at like 1 o'clock in the morning, and there are people still trying to get home from Giant Stadium.
I was going to say, like, there are still Ubers driving away from the stadium, like, right now. Right.
It let up a lot during the pandemic, but other than that, people are still stuck there. And they were, you know, that started at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I think it was. People in the door, and it didn't end till after 1. And people have been saying, why do we have to do 8-hour events?
Exactly.
Why can't we do this over 2 nights? Well, we've had 2 years of 2 nights of WrestleMania strictly because of the pandemic. But there has definitely been sort of an internal and an external debate between the company and the fans of whether or not it should be a 2 nights. And now you've experienced both. Last year, it was unavoidable. We were in a lockdown. This year, they did it, and they still could have done it if they had decided, you know, we'll just take what we can get, and it'll be a spectacle, and if we lose money on it, we lose money on it, but at least it looks like we had a crowd. You know, we're shifting back to normal. I guess the question is really simple. Which do you prefer? Which direction do you think the WWE should go in? You know, continue the 2-night thing, even when we're not forced to social distance, or keep it to 1 day but let it be an 8 to 12 hour event?
You know, the 8 to 12 hour event, even if it's like going to a buffet that only serves your favorite food, right? It could be everything you love, fried ravioli, lasagna, all the way down the damn line. You're eating. At some point, you're going to be like, okay, I'm going to throw up. WrestleMania as 8 hours of the main show plus like 4 hours of pre-show, where you have like 6 pre-show matches where there's no fans in the ring in the arena anyway because they're just like getting there.
Right.
I mean, the thing about the fatigue we have at home, and then compound that to people who are just like crammed in either a hot or a cold stadium, maybe with rain. I think the 2-night deal, if they're going to make sure that there's going to be upwards of 8 to 10 hours of wrestling over that weekend, do everybody a favor, break it into 2 nights. You could double your ticket sales. Vince can come out and be like, we sold 200,000 tickets this weekend. I mean, it's really a win-win for everybody. My only thing as like an archivist sort of nerd, you know, I like having, like, if I go to the network right now, I want to see WrestleMania 36, last year's show. I don't want to see bullshit like night 1, night 2. I want the whole fucking thing.
Right.
You know, so if you're going to do it 2 days, that's awesome. Do it for 2 days. Make the most out of it that you can. But when you put it on the network afterwards as as an archived piece, squish them the fuck together. And maybe get rid of some of the recaps, you know. But other than that, as like I'm like a real mark for like bookshelves, you know, like your spine's sticking out, you know. I like everything being sort of uniform. So it's like, yeah, WrestleMania, you know, I mean, they don't even number these damn things anymore, but it's like 35, 36-1, 36-2, 37-1. I don't like that.
31A, 31B.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. What if we split the difference, though, right? I say book an 8 to 12 hour WrestleMania show. But book it air it over a couple of days. Like, here, it's WrestleMania week. Night 1 starts on Raw. Night 2 starts on NXT. Wednesday, nothing. Thursday, nothing now. I don't think they do shows on Thursday. Friday, we're up to night 3. Starts on SmackDown. Saturday is NXT TakeOver. And then Sunday is a 4-hour WrestleMania with your top, like, however many matches you fit into 4 hours.
I don't know if the wrestlers' egos could take that. Seriously, I mean, how do they work out paydays for that? You know, I mean, did you make it to the main card? Is the whole thing the main card? The people who showed up, who are the opening card, or the opening match on Raw, get the same sort of pay as someone who was the opening match on WrestleMania night? I don't know. And then you have to maintain viewership for that whole thing. I don't know. I wouldn't want to make it any more than 2 days. I don't think.
You don't want to do WrestleMania week?
No, maybe a month. No, but I mean, even to this weekend here, like I wanted to do shit outside my house, but I couldn't.
Right.
You know,
no, I get that.
Because it's like I'm out here on the in the Pacific time zone here. It's very very early here, and so WrestleMania started at like 4 p.m. here. So
right.
Like I couldn't do jack. I've got stuff I do during the day, and it's like, you can't even go out in the afternoon because we've got this show. And then it's like, oh crap, I got it tomorrow too.
And I know I made a joke about it, but like the collective ran stuff. Ring of Honor usually runs stuff this weekend. Like, Jesus Christ, there was an Impact pay-per-view this weekend.
Yep.
It ran opposite WrestleMania, just ran a few hours earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, and granted, all I wanted to do was watch Bloodsport and Effie's Big Gay Brunch, and I've watched one of those, but I haven't been able to watch the other one yet. But that's the point. Like, if you're, it's like the WWE sort of dominates your life as a fan for this past week, to the point of almost like making me resentful. Like, oh yeah, I don't want to watch this. I don't want to watch this much WWE ever. Why are you doing this to me? And people are like, you didn't have to watch any of it. Well, I mean, if you're commenting on it, it helps to watch. So.
Sure. It's like all year I look forward to Thanksgiving week because I do a shitload of cooking on Thanksgiving week. And the whole year I'm looking forward to it. I'm romanticizing it. I can't wait to do it. I can't wait for the smells, the tastes, the March of the Wooden Soldiers on the TV, just the whole thing. And then you get there and it's like you're not even ready for it. It's like, oh God, I got to do this now.
Yep.
And that's how WrestleMania week is because like I think you sent out a tweet like a week ago saying, hey, we're a week away. And I'm like, no fucking way.
Yeah.
Like, no, we're like a month away. And then sure enough, we were just a week away. It's like, holy shit, we got to do this. And it's like, it was relentless. And all the damn indie shows doing their little, Me Too's, that works, I think, when we're not in a pandemic.
Yeah.
Because, you have all these fans from disparate nations, all over the world coming, converging on this one location.
WrestleMania becomes a convention.
Of course. It's a huge, huge cultural event.
Right.
Where you have people from everywhere coming in to see this one huge show. And while they're here, I can see my favorite indie stars too. I can see my favorite international stars here. I can do all this stuff. I can go to the breakfasts.
Yeah,
I can get these autographs.
This group of 500 people is going to go see Bloodsport, and this group of 500 people is going to go do a signing, and this one's going to go watch. Like when I was in New York, they did the combined Ring of Honor. I think it was New Japan show, which we went to at Madison Square Garden, and there was other stuff happening that night. Sure. But I want to say like it started on like Wednesday or Thursday that week, and there was Bloodsport, and there were a bunch of other like indie shows. There was the Ring of Honor New Japan show. There was Access. I don't even know if they did Access this year. They probably,
I doubt it.
Yeah, they probably couldn't.
They probably did like a virtual thing.
Yeah, we went to Access in New York. There was the Bruce Pritchard Q&A.
Something to wrestle, yeah.
Yeah, and I think there was I think there were other Q&As too, but that was the one that we went to.
Sure.
And like I said, in Texas too, there was a whole bunch of stuff going on. Not to mention, it used to be, like I said, Saturday night was NXT TakeOver. Friday was the Hall of Fame. Saturday was NXT TakeOver, and then Sunday's WrestleMania. And I kind of like that. Like you built. That's why I mean like WrestleMania week. Like you build up to the big event and then let the big event stand on its own. It's the thing I hate about the 2-night thing is, and we'll transition to talking about it now. By the time we were done with WrestleMania night 1, I was done with WrestleMania.
Okay, I could definitely see that. It was a roller coaster for the first night. Another perk to the 2-night thing is that we can actually give both Royal Rumble winners a main event. which I'm actually surprised they did. I didn't think they were going to give both Royal Rumble winners the main event of the night. Well, first because I don't think they built the Sasha Bianca match as well as they could have, and I think there were other matches that could have been the main event that night. But ultimately, it was a good call, of course. But I do like that there are stakes now to both Royal Rumbles if they do continue it this way, and they can actually play up the fact that, because I mean, in previous years, I mean, we've had the Royal Rumble winner in like the third match.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, why?
This is supposed to be off the pay-per-view half the time.
Sometimes.
I want the one in Georgia, the one that was so bad they had to bring The Rock back for the next 2 years.
Oh, 27?
Yeah, the one with the Miz.
Yeah.
I want to say like Alberto Del Rio.
Yeah.
Kicked off the night with
He did, with Edge.
whoever. Yeah, with Edge, and one of them two had won the Royal Rumble.
Alberto did. It was the 40-man Rumble. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Right. So, yeah, the last thing I'm going to say on this is whether or not it's one night or 2 nights, 4 hours is it. 4 hours is the maximum any show should be. Past 4 hours, and you're asking a lot of your audience. Like I said, I had really been looking forward to Becky Lynch, Ronda Rousey, Charlotte. Like, I was super into it. My friend was super into it. You know, like, I'm a huge Ronda Rousey fan. He was a huge Becky Lynch fan. And, like, we really felt that... And I remember talking about it that year, that they had built up that feud really well. Like, it was so crazy. Like, I was super into it.
And then they dumped Charlotte into it.
Yeah, I mean, I could live with that. I was really super into the match, and I wanted to be there for it. By the time we got there, I was so cold and I was so tired. I was like, "Fuck me, get me out of here."
We can beat the traffic. Let's go.
Yeah, that's why I'm not still there. And I ended up watching it on my phone in a hotel room. I'm like, this is not what I paid all this money for.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
The only WrestleMania I ever went to was 26, which is out here in Arizona, and probably the only WrestleMania we'll get because we were the worst crowd in WrestleMania history. Nothing popped us. We did not give a shit about anything, and we saw the second Shawn Taker match, the Shawn's retirement match, and we did not give a shit. So I think like as soon as the Taker had Shawn down for like the 2.5 count, we were out the door already. Okay, we got it. We're done. Let's go.
He hits 3, and his eyes roll in the back of his head, and he looks up, and he was like, "Hey, where'd everyone go?
Where is everybody? Yeah.
Fucking crickets."
Arizona sucks.
All right. A quick mention about the Hall of Fame. They had to do both Hall of Fames this year because last year they canceled it because of the pandemic. The group of inductees was John Layfield, Bradshaw, the British Bulldog, Jushin Thunder Liger, the New World Order, and the Bella Twins. Any thoughts about this, about the 2020 Hall of Fame?
I think that WWE is really squandering Titus O'Neil. This guy is like a walking feel-good story. He's walking great PR. He's a great talker. He's huge. He's got a great look. And it's like he seems like money. And they don't put him in the ring for whatever reason. I don't understand. I can understand that he's a little bit limited in the ring. But, I mean, with that sort of charisma and that sort of story, he's a guy you want in the forefront of your business. And even during the spiel he was given during his Warrior Award acceptance, I mean, it's hard not to be moved by this guy and his story and how willing he is to give back and how incomplete his life would be if he wasn't giving back. It's like harder for him not to be a great guy. I don't know why we're not seeing more of him. I really think they need to integrate him into storylines and just really use him the best way they can because he's a phenomenal human being. And wrestling gets – I mean, we went through that whole sex pervert scandal last year that I think we're probably still dealing with in a lot of ways. Here we have a guy who is like the greatest guy on the planet. He's in the industry, and he's not getting any play. They save him for like the Read Across America stuff, and that's it.
Yeah, it's funny because he'd have been cut a long time ago if he wasn't doing any of that stuff. He's not great in the ring, and this is the conversation I had with my father-in-law because my father-in-law like hates all combat sports and makes fun of me incessantly for watching it, and so of course that when I'm around him, that's all I'll talk about because I'm a dick. I talk about that in movies. He cares about neither. But he knew who Titus O'Neil was. And he knew who Titus O'Neil was because of all the charity work and the stuff he does with schools. My wife talks about him all the time. She him and Biggie are her
you're in the area, too.
Right. Him and Biggie are her two favorite wrestlers because she has a personal connection with both of them, in where they're from and what they do.
Yeah.
Right. And, so it's funny because, you talk to 1,001 wrestling fans, or Titus O'Neil sucked. You talk to people who are not really wrestling fans, but, are aware of Big E. Yeah. And they're like, oh my God, the two best guys in the industry are Titus O'Neil and Big E.
Yep.
And he was asking me, he was like, why don't they put the belt on him? Why don't they use him? I'm like, well, because he's tripped and fallen under the ring twice. He's not exactly John Cena.
No.
Who was not a wizard in the ring either, but still, it's that he absolutely still has a place in the WWE because of his charitable works and because of his good nature and, and just what an awesome dude he is. But you can't get away from the fact that it is wrestling, and you still have to be a halfway decent wrestler.
Put him in a tag team. Put him on commentary. Just make him visible.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. That much I agree with. I think I liked when he was a manager.
Sure, with the worldwide stuff. He was great.
He was managing Apollo Crews and Dana Brooke. They've had a couple of guys do that. The Robert Stone brand, and then there's another black guy on NXT.
Bivens.
Yeah.
Malcolm Bivens, yeah.
They keep doing this where we have black guys in fancy suits, who are managing people, and they never last in that role very long.
No, they don't. No, male managers outside of Paul Heyman, and they don't even consider him a manager. It's just that's a bygone thing, unfortunately.
Yeah. William Shatner. That was the one thing I thought about with this because just kind of going through this list here, Bradshaw. I don't mind him being in the Hall of Fame. I thought
he belongs. As far as the WWE Hall of Fame is concerned, absolutely.
I just thought it was funny they completely skipped his Justin Hawk Bradshaw phase.
Of course, yeah, that's not sexy.
Utterly not missed glamorous. It entirely.
Now, he came in with Ron Simmons as part of the APA.
Right. There's never any context as to why they were the APA. What is the Ace? They're Acolyte. Why were they the Acolytes? Well, he was into Satan at one time.
Yeah, he was in the, he was after the Dark Lord.
Yeah. They're doing nothing else with him, and so he became mind-controlled by The Undertaker. It's fine.
Vince Russo said, there's a big guy, and we're not doing anything with him.
Yeah.
Paint some shit on his chest.
Yeah, so it's literally like we signed him in 1994, and in 1999, he became the APA. Wait, what?
We didn't want to talk about all those pre-pay-per-view matches with Savio Vega he had.
The British Bulldog's been a long time coming, and I think they wanted to get him in with a Dynamite Kid, but apparently the Dynamite Kid's fuck off. So...
Yeah. Or he's kind of dead right now. So I mean,
yeah,
and he's also, I don't want to use the word problematic, but he is.
Okay. So I was glad the British Bulldog got in. Jushin Thunder Liger, is a legend in the sport. He absolutely deserved to get in. I'm actually surprised it took this long.
I think they waited for his retirement.
So how do you put the New World Order in and not include Eric Bischoff? How'd they not do that when they initially did it? Because obviously they made up for it by putting him in by himself this year. But how do you not put Eric Bischoff in the NWO last year?
Yeah, you're right. I don't like when they do this when they induct groups because it's so wibbly wobbly here. Like we saw the Four Horsemen, I think, were the first group to be put in. Tag teams, sure, do tag teams. Why not?
Yeah, absolutely.
But for groups, it's okay, well, the Four Horsemen, but not Ole, not Roma, not Sid, not Sting, not Benoit, not Malenko, just these four, and J.J. Dillon, of course.
And 10 years from now, when the Hurt Business goes in does Shelton then go in as the Hurt Business? Then he goes in as part of Angle's group, and then he goes in as part of the World's Greatest Tag. How many times is Shelton going to go in? Because he was in 3 different groups. Exactly. X-Pac's not even in by himself. Sean Waltman is literally in because he was in 2 different groups.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't like that. I mean, the Hall of Fame now becoming a multiple, the 2-time. It's like Booker T is a 2-time Hall of Famer. What? Sure, he's a Hall of Fame guy, but twice.
What's he in? What is he in once as the Harlem Heat?
Yep, him and Stevie Ray went in like 2 years ago,
And then he went in by himself.
He went in by himself a couple years before that.
Okay.
So, and I'm guessing that Bradshaw and Farouk will be put in as the APA eventually.
Right.
So he'll be a two-timer.
They both will.
Oh yeah,
he's already in
Ron's
because Farouk's already. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's that bugs me. But if you're going to do the NWO here, I don't even know why you include X-Pac. If you're going to do like a group, this should just be the first three.
So the funniest thing in the world was, and then we'll move on from this, it was me having to explain why he was 6 in the. My wife was like,
he was the 7th member. What?
Wait, my wife was like, why is he called 6? And I'm like, because he was the 1, 2, 3 kid. 1 + 2 + 3. Get it? And she was like, wrestling's stupid. And I'm like, it is.
I'd like to find someone who's never like heard of or watched wrestling and be like, can you tell me what a Triple H is? And be like, get the fuck out of my face.
Stop bothering me. I'll call the police.
Yes.
You're right. I utterly forgot to mention Titus O'Neil when I was doing my read off here. I also forgot to mention the legacy guys: Ray Stevens, Brickhouse Brown, Dr. Death, Steve Williams, Baron, Michelle Leone, and Gary Hart. They all deserve.
I hate
to
the legacy
be there.
wing.
Why
I hate the legacy wing.
Why?
Because I think some of these guys deserve to be in on their own.
Okay.
Like Dr. Death could be in on his own. I think they did Lord Alfred Hayes a few years ago. He could be in on his own.
Right.
I feel like we're burning through Hall of Famers here.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand it's not glamorous to be inducting dead people, especially in an entertainment thing where this isn't like a legitimate sport. Like we're not actually celebrating stats like we would be in a real sport. But it's like, why not put Ray Stevens in by himself?
Well, you ask a good question. I don't understand the difference between one dead guy whose family gets to induct him, and except for him, like the Big Boss Man, I think a year or two ago.
Yep. Yokozuna and British Bulldog this year.
Right. Their family gets to make a speech and induct on their and accept on their behalf, but Dr. Death, they couldn't get his family to come.
Right.
So
they
why isn't
Jim
British
Ross
Bulldog
just
a
to say
legacy?
few words?
Why isn't British Bulldog a legacy? Why is Dr. Death a legacy? What's the difference?
Exactly. I guess because he's British Bulldog's most of his career or notable career is WWE. But it's just like I hate the legacy wing in that I remember like the first time they did a legacy wing, they inducted like 30 people. Like introducing the legacy wing, and here's 100 motherfuckers.
I guess it's like they started making phone calls to like whoever was in the legacy the first time. They were like, we should get some of these people from like the early 1900s, the mid 1900s.
Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, that's coming next. And I guess they either couldn't find family members or family members just weren't interested. They're like, it's been 100 years since anyone in our family's been involved in wrestling. No, thank you. And that's when they were like, well, fuck it. Then we'll just induct him anyway, and we'll call it legacy. That's got to be the only explanation.
There's this weird guy running around the South with a tennis racket who I think knows a thing or two about wrestling history. Might be able to say a few words about some of these characters. There's also a guy in San Jose or San Francisco who writes a lot about history, wrestling history. I mean, there should be someone out there who could talk about Dr. Death. Nobody out there could talk about Dr. Death. Come the fuck on.
Yeah, Jim Cornette knows one or two things about Dr. Death, considering he worked with him in Mid-South.
Just one thing maybe.
Bill Watts is still out there. I think they think they're on at least friendly terms.
Bill Watts is in the Hall of Fame.
So, I'm saying, they could have had Bill Watts come in and like say something about Dr. Death.
Or Hacksaw Duggan from the UWF. I mean,
right.
They could have just I feel like we're just squandering things a couple of years ago they put Beth Phoenix in. And a lot of us were just like, what? Yeah,
I screamed about that and then got yelled back at by the guys I was doing podcasts with at the time. I'm like, Beth Phoenix has been out of wrestling for 5 minutes. Stop it.
Yeah, and she only wrestled for 8. So it's like she didn't have this huge monumental landmark milestone groundbreaking career.
Mm-hmm.
She was just there for a little while during a down period.
You know what she was? So they needed
Edge's wife.
They needed a foil for Trish Stratus, and so they brought in Mickie James, and Mickie James was stalking Trish Stratus, and then Mickie James got over and now she needs a foil, and that was Beth Phoenix.
And then she busted her face, and she went away for a year.
But that was it. That Beth Phoenix came in as Mickey James's enemy, and then hung around for a few years.
That's it. Yeah. So it's like, if we're burning through inductees so quickly that we have Beth Phoenix in there, and I mean no slight against Beth Phoenix, but if we're burning through inductees that quickly, maybe we stop inducting 400 people into the Legacy Wing, and maybe do a little bit of research, maybe teach the fans a little bit about wrestling history, celebrate your fucking history.
Did you hear that Ethel Johnson, that's not the right footage? Have you heard about this? There are people on Twitter from Ethel Johnson's family saying that no one bothered to contact us, and that's not even her in your footage.
Oh, Lord.
How embarrassing.
Oh, God. I mean, do they have anybody working there? Are George and Adam still locked in the film vault? I mean, come on.
The 2021 Hall of that wouldn't work anymore. The 2021 Hall of Fame: Molly Holly, Eric Bischoff, Kane, the Great Khali, Rob Van Dam, Ozzy Osbourne, Rich Herring got the Warrior Award, and the legacy consisted of Dick the Bruiser, yes, Pistol Pez Watley, sure, Buzz Sawyer, absolutely, Ethel Johnson, get the right footage, and Paul Bosch, absolutely. A couple of things.
Why can't Paul Bosch get his own induction? Bruce Pritchard won't shut the fuck up about him on his show.
I know.
I'm sure Bruce could have spoke about him for more than 2 minutes.
Okay, so I'm done with the celebrity wing too. Like William the Refrigerator Perry, yes.
Until
Mr.
Cyndi
T.
Lauper's in it, they can go fuck themselves.
Okay, no, I disagree with that. Cyndi Lauper was part of the Rock and Wrestling connection.
Yeah,
and without the Rock and Wrestling connection, there's no WrestleMania, and then there's no modern wrestling.
Without her in it, it's pointless. She needs to be in it.
Oh, I thought you were okay. For one, I thought the way you
in it.
Okay, I thought the way you were saying that like she's in it and doesn't deserve to be.
No.
Yeah, she should have been the first one.
She should have been the first.
Yeah, she should have been in before Drew fucking Carey. That's for
sure. No doubt.
Yeah, like you put Cyndi Lauper in, you put Mr. T in, you put the Refrigerator in, you put What's His Nuts from WrestleMania 11, that fought Lawrence Taylor. That's kind of it. You don't.
And, I mean, it might be dicey, but there's a certain former president who, he was instrumental in 2 years, several years of WrestleMania.
I'm okay with Donald Trump being in a wrestling Hall of Fame for what you know. He was an instrumental part of WrestleMania 4 and 5. And 5 arguably one of their biggest successes at the time.
Yeah, 4, 5, and 23.
Yeah, I'm okay with all that. I'm not okay with, like Ben Stiller and the other comedian, The Daily Show. Jon Stewart showed up on a Raw once. Well, let's put them in the Hall of Fame.
That Ken Jeong guy jumped off the rope one time.
Yeah, I mean that's I think Snoop Dogg's in the Hall of Fame because he came out once with Sasha
Kid
Banks.
Rock. Yeah, Kid Rock is in there, and all he did was sing he sung the Diva Battle Royal or some shit.
I'm not even okay with putting fucking Floyd Mayweather in there. Why not Floyd Mayweather, but you're okay with Lawrence Taylor? Because there were people involved in the early days of the WWE, and Lawrence Taylor's kind of my cutoff point. He main evented a WrestleMania, and I think there's the difference. Him and Bam Bam main evented WrestleMania 11. What's his face? Floyd Mayweather and the Big Show was halfway in the middle of a card.
Yeah.
And it was just another, it's like putting Aki Bono in the stupid celebrity hall.
He will be.
You put some schmo celebrity in there with the Big Show for a squash. It doesn't mean they should be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, that's just my thing. So Ozzy Osbourne to me was a waste.
That was so dumb. And, I mean, with Lawrence Taylor, I remember totally buying. I was in New York City at the time. I was totally buying into that story. Mm-hmm. And this was before. Nowadays, it's we got dickheads like Logan Paul in wrestling or involved in wrestling.
Future Hall of Famer Logan Paul.
I'm sure. And it's wrestling has gotten to the point now where it's no longer. It's still a niche, but not quite the niche it used to be. It used to be a more charming niche, where if we had someone from outside come in, it was a huge deal. So someone like Lawrence Taylor, who's only really a big name in the Northeast, and not even anymore. Because, I mean, you even were like, what's his face? Who fought Bam Bam? It's yeah, LT. But it's it was different because we didn't have this constant flood of celebrities coming in to actually compete.
Right.
So when that happened, it was really, really big. And they were able to frame that in a way where it was like, this is a huge deal. They had press conferences. They had all this stuff that just made it look larger than life. And at the end of the day, it was a mid-carder, Bam Bam Bigelow, that nobody gave a fuck about.
Right.
But they made it matter. You come to today, and it's like, here's – who was that? Pitbull? No, not Pitbull. The bunny guy, Bad Bunny at the ring. It's like, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Next year, it's going to be another one. We had Snooki, who will be in a Hall of Famer if she's not already. I mean, it's every year we get this one celebrity that goes in, so it's not a novelty anymore. It's just something we've come to expect, and it's just not special anymore.
Right. Like I said, like Mr. T, they ran vignettes with him and Hogan training for weeks before WrestleMania.
They hosted Saturday Night Live the night before. I mean, it was huge.
He was an integral, and then he's not in just the one WrestleMania match. He's in two.
Yep. He came back the next year to fight Piper.
Right. So, like, all those people, like, I think the Hall of Fame should recognize people who, if it were not for them, wrestling would not be in the place that it's in now.
Absolutely.
They elevated the medium. Cyndi Lauper, you don't have modern wrestling without her because she was the linchpin to the greater
MTV.
To the MTV audience.
Absolutely.
Mr. T, again, you know,
pop culture, huge.
Right. I mean, Mr. T seems like a joke now, I'm sure, to people, but Mr. T, could you find a bigger celebrity, a bigger personality in America than Mr. T in the early 80s?
Not outside of Hulk Hogan, right?
Right.
Mean, it's like, you had those huge names that transcended entertainment. You know, the Rambos, the Terminators, the Mr. T's. It was just a whole different world.
Yep. So like I'm okay with like those kinds of people in there, but every celebrity that's ever showed up on a Raw or SmackDown or wandered in from a pit, like Jennifer Flowers, didn't The Rock make like a sexual innuendo at her? Is she going to be in next?
Yep.
She wandered past the camera at a WrestleMania once upon a time.
Why not?
All right.
Taylor Thomas beat Bob Backlund at chess one time.
Yeah, like, I think there should be a cutoff for some of the celebrities that were involved in the early days of WrestleMania. Like, past a certain point, like, you know, Brian Last brought up Bob Uecker, and Jim Cornette was like, what? And I'm like, well, Bob Uecker showed up to 2 WrestleManias and was, you know, and was like a backstage interviewer, and, you know, he lended credence, he lended gravitas to the event.
And he committed.
Right.
And he committed to the bit.
Right. He was really a part of the product at the time.
How many times a year do we see Andre choking him?
Right.
That's still something they show. It's timeless.
I'll make an exception for Pete Rose, too.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Multiple years with Shane.
Yeah.
But after that, I'm done. I'm done with this. Close the celebrity wing. Nobody else gets in, except for Cyndi Lauper, who apparently is an egregious, mistake that they, missed.
I don't know why they haven't put her in yet.
Are you sure she's not in?
She's not.
Okay. I believe you.
Yeah, because it's one of those things that comes up every year. It's like, well, why isn't she in? And like even I think a year or two ago, she tweeted out that she wanted to be in it.
Oh, Jesus Christ! Considering like women can do no wrong right now, and it's all about pushing women, and women are the best, and they want and they want it all, and we should give it to them. How do you?
Why not the woman with the anthem for women?
You're right. How do you not have girls just want to have fun blaring through a stadium as she walks out and wrestlers throwing flowers at her? Jesus Christ.
And I bet you if Cyndi Lauper was inducted, she'd actually show the fuck up to the ceremony.
Yeah. I'm wondering if it's because of and that's the last thing, and then we got to move on. Sure. But I'm wondering if it's because of Wendy Richter.
Well, like, Wendy's in the Hall of Fame.
Is she in the Hall of Fame?
Yes. They already mended that fence.
Oh, fuck them then.
Yeah.
All right, I don't know the list.
Wendy Richter's back. She's in.
Okay. I was going to say, if Wendy's in, there's no reason why. Wendy should have gone in the same year as Cyndi Lauper.
Exactly. They should have inducted each other.
Good gracious. Fucking Medusa's in. Who threw her and then they not only does she throw a title in the garbage can on live television, they have to reenact it for the audience in case
the 24/7. Oh yeah, she did then too. Yeah.
Hey, remember when I did this?
Hey, kids, there used to be this show called Nitro.
And then she's like, and then she's like, mea culpas, she pulls it out of the garbage can. She's like, I'm sorry. Eric told me. All right. I love that Molly Holly's in.
Sure.
I think, Molly Holly was probably like, in a time when women's wrestling was not great and it was a lot of, 3-minute garbage matches with models, Molly Holly was a legit wrestler who fucked people up and could actually go. And
actually helped build the division too.
Yeah.
And she actually, that was one thing that Beth Phoenix said during her Icons documentary, is that she showed up for training or something, and she was like ready to pay like her last dollar for it, and I think it was, oh God, was it like, wasn't this before Norman Smiley, whoever was running it before, maybe Fit. He's like, oh no, you've already been paid for. Molly paid for you. So like she was invested in building the women's division for a time where there was no women's division. Right. So I definitely see her as being worthy.
Yeah, the Molly Holly was the only one of these I got really emotional about because I loved Molly Holly back in the day. Everything she did was great. Like and like you hear from people about Molly, they have not a bad thing to say about her.
Never heard a bad thing.
So, yeah, she's awesome. She absolutely deserves to be in there. I'm fine with Eric Bischoff being in there.
I'm very happy about him being in there. Yeah. I wish he got a longer than 2 minutes to make a damn speech. But the whole second half, the 2021 class, they must have been just like, okay, guys, you got 3.5 minutes. Get everything out and get the fuck off the stage.
Or two Samoans will come and throw you off the stage.
Exactly, yeah. Right through the tables, yeah. Every speech for the second half felt severely truncated.
Yeah, well, considering in years past they didn't give anyone a time limit, and then you had to have Kane walk Mr. T off stage. Come on now, but
Mr. T loves his mom. He loves his mom.
And who doesn't? Okay. I'm okay with Kane being in. Like, sure. Jim Cornette. I can't say it any better than Jim Cornette did, so I'll just direct people to that podcast. Go listen to him talk about Kane. Kane came in, was a company guy, did everything they told him to, and they gave him the Kane thing, and he went to the bank with it, and he's never looked back. My favorite Kane moment is actually him in the therapy office explaining his history. And for 3 consecutive years, for some reason, I felt compelled to choke Pete Rose. Perfect.
Did you ever read his autobiography?
No.
The kayfabe Kane autobiography?
No.
Oh man, I read a little bit of it. It is batshit.
We should read it and talk about it.
We should do a show on that. Yeah,
absolutely. Kali, because India. Let's move on. And then Rob Van Dam. I mean, you can't argue. The guy was a star. The guy. In a time where the style was one thing, he worked a style all his own, and he made it work for him, and he got people to recognize that it was good that he was doing that, and so good for him.
He informed a lot of the style going into the mid to late 90s here. He's a 30-plus year veteran. Definitely, he's worthy of it.
Yep. And then we talked about the legacy stuff already. I'm okay with all that. All right, so that's the Hall of Fame.
What about Rich Herring?
Nope.
I'm kidding.
Moving on. But before we do, since that was a very long segment, let's pay some bills here. Let's talk about Grammarly. How about that?
Mm-hmm.
You know Grammarly. You use Grammarly. I know you do.
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Grammarly is giving away a free 30 days of their product. But what is Grammarly, you might be asking? Grammarly's AI-powered products help people communicate more effectively. Grammarly helps you write mistake-free on Gmail, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and nearly anywhere else you write on the web. Grammarly corrects hundreds of grammar, punctuation, and spelling mistakes, while also catching contextual errors, improving your vocabulary, and suggesting style improvements. It will not tell you who's in the Hall of Fame, though, in case you forget like I did. To download Grammarly today, get Grammarly.com/W2M Network. Again, that's getGrammarly.com/W2M Network to download Grammarly for free. All right, when everyone came...
Are you allowed to get a Grammarly wet or feed it after midnight?
No, absolutely not. All right, so night 1 and night 2, and we're just going to rip through this here. Night 1 kicked off with rain delay. Let me tell you how I took off. I work till 7:30, and it takes me about 20 minutes to a half an hour to get from door to door of my job. But because I'm used to kickoff shows at like 5 and 6 o'clock in the evening Eastern Standard Time, I'm like, well, I got to be home for that. So I left work at 4 both nights. Considering this didn't start till 8:30 Eastern Standard Time, boy, was that a waste of time.
Yeah. And I saw people online like really having a good time with this. Like, ha ha ha, WrestleMania is ruined. And it's like, why are you being such dicks?
And my favorite stuff was God gets revenge on Vince McMahon for prior match.
That I could appreciate, but like the dickheads online being like, "Oh, this will show him for trying to have a show and entertain us." Like, get the fuck out of here.
The one thing I did say about that on Twitter was like, for WWE, from now on, when you pick your sites, maybe don't do Lizard Brain and just pick the site that's giving you the best deal. Pick the site with the dome. Make a short list of stadiums in the world with domes and just do them there.
But then how could they not do Florida every 2 years and then Texas every 2 years? So I mean that seems to be all they ever fucking do nowadays.
Yeah, really. All right, so we kicked off the night with the Hurt Business. Bobby Lashley defending his championship against Drew McIntyre. And this went about 20 minutes. And I will tell you what, man, I was pulling for Bobby Lashley. I was pulling for Bobby Lashley, and Bobby Lashley won, and I was super thrilled about that, and we were off to the races. What did you think of this match?
Well, as the show's token Drew McIntyre defendant here and apologist, I really thought this was going to be the coronation for Drew in front of a crowd for the first time. I'm a Lashley fan too, so I would be happy either way. I was pulling for Drew to have his moment. I think he. If you look at the two, the men's division and the women's division during the quarantine and pandemic, the men's division has been carried by Drew McIntyre. The women's division has been carried by Bayley. They both got fucked here. Drew went out and got beat. Bayley got nothing.
Bayley got beat up by the Bellas.
God, and they booed the shit out of the Bellas, thank God. But I was hoping for. Maybe not so much like a Drew running in, claymoring, and done, right? But I was hoping that Drew would win, just so he could get his moment in front of the fans here, as I think he earned it. As lackluster as his runs have been, I don't blame it on him entirely, because it's just really, really shitty circumstances. So I was hoping they'd maybe give him something, even if they had Lashley beat him on Raw the following night to get it back. Just give him his time, give him his moment, give him his just moment to shine. Soak in, cheers, hold a belt up over his head in front of people, which he's never had the opportunity to do before.
Maybe he gets it next year in Texas.
It's possible. It's certainly possible. But I mean, then when you start running into the old Roman Reigns conundrum here, where it's like, okay, well, this year we're going to coronate him. Oh, God damn it, next year we're going to coronate him. And then just circumstances will come up to make it go back a year, and then we'll all start hating Drew until he turns bad and decides that he's like a Scottish chief or something, and then we'll start loving him.
Yeah.
But I was happy that Drew was the first guy out. I was unhappy with how they did the rain delay, though. I don't think they should have shown us as much as they did. I mean, you had Drew and Bobby come out in the backstage area arguing. It's like, that looks really, really bad.
Yeah, they were scrambling to put something together. Like they had nothing in the can. They had nothing ready to go. As if hey, we're going to Florida, known for hurricanes. It's fine. Don't have anything prepared in case there's a rain delay.
But it's like, we could do this for them here. It's like you have Michael Cole. It's like, we're going to start with the Drew McIntyre Bobby Lashley match. This is how Drew won the title last year. Show the fucking Brock match on the screen. Mm-hmm. Just don't have them argue in the back, because it makes them look like children. Don't have Braun Strowman come out and threaten to murder Shane McMahon. I'm going to leave a corpse. He's not going to have breath in his body. What the fuck are you talking about? Get out of here. I mean, they were so ill prepared for this, and none of these guys, since they're so heavily produced, they don't know how to do improv. They don't know how to do this off the cuff here without writers having written paragraphs of dialogue for them.
Did you
they
see
are
Drew
scrambling.
stumble? Drew, at one point, Drew was like, I don't even know what to say. I'm like, all right.
It's like, wow, these guys are so heavily produced that they can't go off script.
Yeah.
And this really, really showed. And I hope when they do archive this show, they just cut that half hour off, because we do not need to relive that.
No. I thought it was a good match. Two big men.
It was good.
I will tell you this. I'll tell you this. Comparing it to last year, and what we've seen over the past year, one thing that became glaringly obvious to me, and we might have actually talked about this before, and pay-per-views past, but it became like unavoidably obvious this time is how much the WWE style is geared to big crowds. Like, you know, there was a point where Bobby Lashley did something to Drew McIntyre, and he looked up and he kind of like pirouetted in the ring, and it was like, come on, and people were like, yeah. And it was funny because and I remember now like why we used to talk about that, because they were doing it in empty fucking gyms.
Yeah.
You know, they were panning to a crowd that wasn't there. And it was a little bit better with the Thunderdomes. It was like, hey, you people on your cell phones, hooray. And they're like, yeah, good. You know, but this was a live crowd that they could interact with, and so much of what they do is geared towards that. And it actually worked, and it was like, oh,
interaction,
yeah, this feels right again. Here's what I'll tell you. I think Drew McIntyre, I think we kind of need to forget the past year with Drew McIntyre, and we need to start all over again. So have him out of the title picture, have Bobby Lashley have a really long run with it. I don't take this belt off of Bobby Lashley. He needs to murder the roster between now and next WrestleMania. Drew McIntyre needs to win the Royal Rumble, and we need to do this again. And and then this time you put the belt on McIntyre. Have him, let's pretend that this was like a time travel movie, and the what we just saw for the past year got erased, and we're starting all over again.
Well, they're going to build this up. They'll have Bobby on his path of rage here. Drew will win the Royal Rumble, but then the next night Brock will show up on a paycheck.
And we'll throw Drew McIntyre in the pool.
Yep. Then Drew will be he'll win the Andre Battle Royal.
You know what, though? I actually wouldn't mind that. If like, Drew McIntyre wins the Royal Rumble, and then Swerve Bro, he wants to fight Roman Reigns, who I'm sure will still have the title, because who else are they going to put it on? But then Brock, but then Lashley's like, I scared Drew McIntyre. I've beaten the entire roster. Who left? And out, and then you hear, and Brock comes out with a, and then Brock comes out with a boombox.
Boombox over one arm, hand over the other.
The next was the Tag Team Turmoil match. Kicked off with Lana versus Naomi, who were dressed as Pimps of the Year. They took on Billie Kay and Carmella, who they just threw together for no apparent reason. And then Lana and Naomi were eliminated by Billie Kay and Carmella.
Justice for Lana.
And then Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose came out, and Mandy Rose slipped as she was walking. I referred to this team on Twitter as Team Legally Blonde, literally with pink gear and all. Out next was the Riot Squad. Who
carried this thing.
Yeah, the Riot Squad eliminated Billie Kay and Carmella. They eliminated Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose. And then out walks Natalya and Tamina, who eliminated the Riot Squad, to which I asked why even bothered giving the Riot Squad as much as they did.
Yeah.
This whole thing lasted 14 minutes, 15 seconds, with Natalya and Tamina, the veteran chicks, winning and moving on to night 2 to take on Nia Jax and Shayna Basler. So what did you think of this match? Sloppy
as hell, except for the Riot Squad, who were like a godsend here. Really, really lifted this one up. I posited that maybe Mandy fell because that kick that Lana whiffed on had the ability to turn the earth backwards in time, like Superman, and then it actually hit when Mandy was coming down to the ring. It's like, and that's when she went down. Outside of the Riot Squad, this was a disaster. I don't know why they gave it to Natalya and Tamina. I can't think of a staler act in the women's division right now than either one of them. Especially when we go to night 2, and I mean, there was really no point to it anyway. I think the Riot Squad are a missed opportunity here, and they really deserve a bit more of a push here. Just on the basis of their performance here, getting stuff out of very, very green and unprepared talent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think that people who make decisions in the WWE are real fond of Ruby Riott. Like, she's a good worker, and they kind of just use her as enhancement because she's not the prettiest of gals, and she's not, doesn't have huge boobs. She's not blonde. Yeah, she's just a good working gal, with a good look to her. And I like the punk rock look, and I like Ruby Riott, but I'm not the one that makes decisions. And so she doesn't look like Mandy Rose or Dana Brooke, which is weird because I don't know how to understand how Dana Brooke hasn't gotten like huge push, considering she is right in that Charlotte mode.
And she looks like that one Muppet. That Janice, is it, from the Dr. Teeth?
Yeah.
Oh boy, I mean, she's not a bad-looking woman. I don't know why she's getting so much face work done. It's like...
Yeah, she needs to lay off the plastic surgery. All right, let's move on.
Okay.
All right, in the best bout machine match of the night, Cesaro defeated Seth Rollins 11 minutes, 35 seconds. I put on Twitter, I'm like, this just had to be at the level of, like, one of Kenny Omega, Tokyo Dome matches. That's what everyone wanted. That's what everyone expected. The whole point of this was to give Cesaro his WrestleMania moment, to see if he could grab that brass ring. Mm-hmm. Here's my only comment on this, and then I'm going to shift over to you to hear your thoughts on the actual match. Somebody, I think it was Jerry Lawler, like, at some point in the broadcast said fans are just now getting into Cesaro, and Twitter was like,
that's because Jerry Lawler hasn't watched wrestling in 10 years.
I mean, does the WWE management and therefore their mouthpieces, can they be any more tone deaf?
Yeah,
it's unbelievable. They work in media. How are you this bad at knowing what your audience wants, or is absolutely telling you they want?
I mean, there were signs with Cesaro section for years.
Yeah.
And, like, to the point where they actually made a thing out of it. And it's like, Jerry Lawler's like, yeah, the fans never cared about him. Yeah, it's bad. This match was a really good match. I was so happy that Cesaro got to bust out the UFO in front of a crowd. I've been waiting for him to do that for 14 years now. So that was really good. This was one of those matches where, and we'll talk about this when we get to Sasha and Bianca, there was an unnecessary layer to it. And, like, the whole thing was built to, can he swing Rollins? Who gives a fuck? Right? I mean, Cesaro swings someone in every fucking match he's in.
Right.
This is like, can anyone get the Big Show out of the Rumble? Well, every fucking year someone does.
Right.
So, yes. Can John Cena lift the Big Show? He does every time. Yes. So, like, the whole thing was like, can he swing Rollins? How about can he beat Rollins? Right. Let's focus on that here. So we get to the swing, and then I'm like, oh, crap, well, he did the swing. Are they going to give him the win, too? Or are they just going to be like, well, he got the swing? But thankfully, he got the damn win, too. Cesaro looked like $1 million here. I really, really hope they have big plans for him, because he deserves a little bit of that rocket fuel.
I think on Twitter I rated it, and I was being somewhat cheeky when I did this, but I think it was like 3.5 stars for the... I think it was like 3.5 stars because Cesaro went over, 2.5 stars for the match itself, 1 star in the Tokyo Dome.
I think 17 stars in the Performance Center.
17 and 7/8 stars, buddy.
Oh, yeah, 7. I'm sorry. I need to be more precise.
Yeah, I like the match. I thought it was a solid match. Both these guys can go. Both these guys can work. I think they are hampered. It's not what I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be not a WWE-style match. I wanted it to be a New Japan-style, we can do everything. And
yeah, but they hampered it with the story of the swing.
Yeah. Sometimes the WWE style really gets in the way of what could have been a phenomenal match. And and that's the thing. Like, I only need them to do it once, just one. Find the one match with the two guys
who can pull it off,
that can pull off Tokyo Dome, and give me Tokyo Dome, and don't. And I feel like there's people backstage in the WWE like, I don't get it, so we're not doing it. And it's like, it's not 100% fucking you.
Yeah, and it's like, we have 500 matches this weekend. Give us one.
Right. Give us one that you're not overly producing. I want the producer to just be like, go watch Kenny Omega and Okada and do that. Okay, bye.
Did you watch the Chris Jericho Broken Skull sessions yet?
It's on my list of 100 of the things I need to watch.
Okay. Well, I watched that yesterday. And it was a very, very good interview for folks who haven't seen it yet. I would recommend checking it out. It's a long one, too. It's like 2 hours long. But he was talking about the first time he went over to Japan to fight Kenny Omega and how he approached Kenny and was like, hey, this is the stuff I want to do. Or who do we need to run this by? And Omega's like, what do you mean run this by? We just do it. And it's like, we need some of that in WWE.
Yeah.
We need it to be like Rollins and Cesaro put their heads together and it's like, let's do this. Okay, let's do this.
It needs to be like Savage and Ricky Steamboat backstage at WrestleMania 3, just talking like we're,
just
all
do
right,
your thing. Yeah.
First move, headlock. Next one was AJ Styles and Omos versus the New Day. Let me just say this, and I'll get in for your thoughts. Xavier Woods cracks me up. Like, whatever else he does, I don't care if people don't think he's a great worker. I don't care, I don't care if he's sort of, fallen into the WWE trap of being lazy in the ring, whatever. He is hysterical. He is one of the few super smart guys on the WWE roster who isn't a clown, but knows where the line is to break that fourth wall. He's fucking hilarious. And that's why the New Day got over with me, and that's why the New Day got over with a lot of people. They used, when they were heels, and he brought up the trombone. Like, well, why do you need a trombone? So that I could make cartoon noises when people were messing up in the ring. That's why. So that stuff cracks me up. When one guy is doing it, and he's only doing it during his matches, and it isn't every single match, and so, there was a point where the story of this match was don't let Omos get in the ring. Yeah. 2-on-1 AJ Styles, don't let him tag Diesel. And, so just beat up on Shawn Michaels the whole time. Okay, great. I like your story. That makes sense. He's 100 feet tall.
Yep.
And Xavier Woods is screaming in the middle of the ring, we are definitely cutting off the ring.
Yeah, we're cutting the ring in half, effectively.
That's when it's one guy doing it once, that's funny. And so, as much as I'm over the New Day, this could not get any staler as a gimmick. Those two guys on that particular night worked really, really well. AJ Styles always works really, really well. He bumped, he sold, he told his story well, and almost didn't injure anybody. Perfect. He came in there and did exactly what a big man should do, exactly what they've messed up Braun Strowman doing. Yeah. He went in there and he was Andre the Giant. I just watched WrestleMania, the first one with Big John Studd, and Big John Studd's hitting Andre, and Andre's not doing anything. He's just man, and then Andre just puts his hand on you, and he's so big, and he's so cumbersome that just putting a hand on you and you just fall all over the place because he's with so much force, and that's what Omos was doing. They tried some shit with him. He no-sold it, which is what he should. He's a giant. Yeah. And then he put the squeeze on him, and he won. And then, fucking AJ jumped on his shoulders. Yep. Perfect. It was everything that match needed to be.
No, God bless the New Day. They got Omos over. They got him over before he even stepped in the ring. I mean, so often we see cockiness in the wrestlers here, and it's yeah, bring the big guy in. But they were just hell no. And I mean, it got to the point where even the commentators were are we ever going to see this guy in the ring? To the point where I was I wonder if they're not even going to let him in the ring.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I bought into it. I'm they're gonna just get AJ out. They're gonna just wreck him, and they're not. The big guy's not even going to get in the ring. But no, they worked AJ over. AJ, God bless him too. Really held his own here. Finally got over to Omos, and AJ being one of the most legitimate performers they have, who can pull off the ring general / chicken shit heel at the same time. Amazing stuff here, and just the cocky look on his face when he tagged Omos in. He's fuck you, you're dead now.
I got to get my big brother, and you're gonna get it.
Yeah, and Omos basically came in and said, "Fuck you, I'm gonna get you now."
You did. He's Mr. T. He's you're gonna feel pain.
When he came in, he called the New Day pieces of shit and said, "I've been waiting for this." He's I've been waiting for this, you pieces of shit.
All we needed for him to do was just walk in, look at the dude, and goes, "We're gonna get some black on black crime now." and
oh man, the way Kofi was selling for Omos, God, just grabbing him by the hand and Kofi doing a triple flip. It's amazing. Everything this match needed to be.
Yep.
AJ climbing, doing a phenomenal forearm, springboarding off the top rope onto Omos' shoulders, hitting what's his face, Woods with the forearm. Amazing. And then demanding that Omos pin Kofi with 1 foot. Because he did the old Kali tree slam, but in a way, I mean, Kali, he's an old action figure that doesn't have the articulation at the elbows, where Omos actually does have the articulation at the elbows, so he was able to get it really, really good. oh, this was everything this match needed to be. And now it's like, who's going to get this belt off these guys?
Right.
So it's very, very well done.
So far, other than like, you know, the girls being what they were, it wasn't offensive. It just wasn't great. But I mean, for the most part, you know, Bobby Drew, Cesaro, Rollins, a tag match, like we're having a really good night. This has been a great WrestleMania so far. Like, I'm into it. I have no complaints other than, you know, like I got, you know, once I got over the rain delay thing, I was like, oh, wow, like
they're bringing it.
A year later, they have found their rhythm, and it's working, and I'm so happy. This was one of those, like, I'm so happy to be a wrestling fan moments.
Sure.
So then we got Braun Strowman and Shane McMahon in a steel cage. And I did a commentary for this.
Wasn't bad.
I did a commentary for this because, and I talked, my son and I don't, just so people understand who listen to those commentaries, like why this one, not that one. He's 7, as of today, as a matter of fact. Happy birthday, Jonas. My son is 7, my daughter is 10, and my wife watches Total Divas. I'm not in here with people who follow New Japan. These are not people who understand work rate. They don't know what I'm talking about when I say best bout machine. You know, if I show them Foley versus Taker Hell in the Cell, and then I show them Owen Hart versus British Bulldog in Germany for the inaugural European title, they're going to tell me a guy falling off a cage is the better match. They're wrong.
I would tell you that too.
You're wrong.
I almost fell asleep during that one when I was like 15. Oh.
Or Angle Benoit, WrestleMania 17, if you like. My point is, I'm not here with people who are there to watch wrestling. I'm here to people who watch spectacle. Like,
want to be entertained.
Yeah. My favorite memory of watching wrestling with my son is actually a 3-night GCW event in Japan where all it was hitting people with light bulbs. We were howling. We had such a good time. And so when I do the commentaries, I started doing them because I would watch those things with my son, and he would say hilarious shit. Like for a little child, he is a smart kid, and I'm not saying that because he's my son. Because if he were dumb, I just wouldn't say anything. But he's a super smart kid, and he's really witty. And when he's just saying stuff, when he's not trying, and he's just like talking extemporaneously, the stuff that comes out of his mouth, him and his mother and I, just like. We're like, oh, wow, I can't believe he said that. That's and he's cracked me up. So I'm like, we should do, like we did with Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley, we should do these more often because he really responds to this stuff, and there's something there for him to respond to. So I figured, Shane McMahon, what is Shane McMahon known for? High bumps.
Falling,
yeah. I'm thinking like him and Big Show at SummerSlam where he fell off like that 50-foot precipice. 2 years ago with The Miz where he fell off a high diving board of some sort.
Taker, Steve Blackman,
yeah. Like he's always he jumps off the Hell in the Cell. You're right, the Steve Blackman one. Mm-hmm. I think it was another SummerSlam fight if I remember.
I think
correctly.
It was, yeah.
Yeah. So like that's what Shane's on. Granted, a lot of the ones I just said were over like 20 years ago, but still, that's what we know Shane McMahon for, jumping off high shit. And I'm like, okay, so it's WrestleMania. He's in a cage match with Braun. Surely he's going to take a super ridiculous high bump. And that's what I wanted to capture. I was disappointed. And you can hear that on the commentary. We're both, like Braun throws him off the top of the cage, and both my son and I just looked at each other. We were like, and my son kind of just went, well, that's it, huh? And I'm like, yep. He's like, well, he probably has a broken spine because he's old. I'm like, good point, Jonas. But not quite the spectacular bump we were looking for. And that's really all I have to say about this. Go ahead.
I thought for a second that Braun was going to do the power slam off the top of the cage.
That would have looked sick.
That would have been insane. But this match, I'm so done with Elias and his buddy.
That's Saxon Riker, isn't it?
It is. Okay. Yeah. The guy who the internet said was going to be fired 3 weeks ago and then showed up on TV the next day.
By the way, real quick on the commentary, my wife says something about a big white bearded guy, and I'm like, which one? There's three of them out there. And she was talking about Brody Lee.
Oh, the one that was the one who was out there.
Well, she's like the one who's dead, and I'm like, which one?
Yes, exactly. Bruiser Brody. But I thought the match, once we got the stupid hoo-ha Elias crap out of the way for the first time, it was decent enough. I mean, it played up to the only way that Shane is going to be competitive with Braun is if he's armed and if Braun is jumped before the match. I think that was well done. and better than what they usually do with Shane, where Shane's usually portrayed as being able to hold his own with anybody with his stupid phantom punches. You know, I think their timing was off when Shane was climbing out of the ring, because he was like standing there for like 5 minutes. Then he waved like through the cage. Mm-hmm. I think that could have been smoother and tighter. But I really thought it was interesting, or at least creative, that Braun came up and he tore the damn cage open.
Yeah, that was the best part. That was the best part of the match for sheer spectacle. Because
I
certainly weren't looking for work rate here.
Yeah, because I was expecting like the same stupid thing where like, okay, Shane's going to be standing there, and then somehow Shane's going to start climbing back into the cage, and we've seen that a million times where it's like, why didn't he just let go and fall?
Right.
Instead, he's going to climb back up. But here we had the cage actually ripped off by the hinges. I thought that was really, really well done. The bump was okay. I mean, it's not a bump I'd want to take. It's probably not a bump that any of the wrestlers would want to take. But when
we've seen it before, like we've seen people bump off the cage.
Of course. But like when I saw Braun like standing on top, I'm like, oh shit, he's gonna power slam him into the mat. And I was like, okay, do it.
The way they should have done it is that, but they should have crash pad through the ring.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. It should have went through, and then we have a rain delay. And but I was hoping that we were going to get something a little bit more impactful than that. But what we got was, I mean, Shane's, a 60-year-old heart attack. So, I mean, what are you going to do?
Yep. All right, the next one was everyone's
one thing.
Yes, sorry.
I still don't understand the feud.
Oh, like we talked about this.
Like he called Braun stupid for no reason.
Yeah, this was written by a 10-year-old for 10-year-olds.
Okay, so like Shane realized it's like, oh crap, it's March and I don't have anything for WrestleMania yet.
Yep.
Okay, that's all I need.
Because God forbid we do a WrestleMania without Shane McMahon, who hasn't been on Raw all year, except for the few like Raw Underground moments.
Yeah, except to come on and say Braun's stupid and then dump. You can't do that on television on him.
Yep. Okay, everyone's favorite match of the night: Bad Bunny and Damian Priest versus The Miz and John Morrison. I mean, as far as matches like this go, I thought it was good. Everyone's raving over Bad Bunny's performance. I thought him and Damian Priest worked well together. I'm going to go ahead and just step aside and let you pronounce the Canadian Destroyer fucking dead. Just I need you to just go. Because I'm super done with this. I think
John Morrison was making up for snubbing Snooki and Trish Stratus back at that WrestleMania back in the day by really just showing ass for old Bad Bunny here, because he, God bless him, he did that backflip into the fake ass Canadian Destroyer so well. We don't need celebrities doing moves that the professionals can't do, right? I mean, this was just, it killed. I mean, the Canadian Destroyer is long dead. The first time we saw it with Petey Williams was like, holy shit, why hasn't anybody done that before? It's so impressive. Then everybody did it. Then John Cena was doing it. Then Goldust was doing it. And now a dude who's never been in a ring before is doing it.
One of the 150-year-old guys from the Rock and Roll Express did it.
Oh, and Buff Bagwell did it. I mean, it's a move that, I mean, it's so hard to make look credible because the guy taking the move is doing the move. And that was definitely something we could see here with Morrison here. He did his damnedest to get his ass over his tea kettle to land that the way he was supposed to. Bad Bunny, I mean, did a decent enough job. I hate jab-based offense like Shane McMahon's jabs. And that was like his whole gimmick there. He did these jabs. And Miz was doing what he was there to do. He sold the shit out of it. But I don't know. I think our standards are just so low for the celebrities here. I mean, we've talked about like Snoop Dogg doing like an arm drag and Dennis Rodman doing an arm drag, and it's like, holy shit, they're Luthez reincarnated. He punched a guy a few times, and then he ran into the ring and like fell his back into him. I don't know.
Yeah.
As for, a spectacle, it was what it was.
Yep.
I think the lead up to it, where we had those damn bunnies with one ear jumping into the ring, That took 6 years. And the fact that like they got the cheapest fucking bunny suits as possible, where like I said, half of them had missing ears, and the rest of them they were all holding the head down so it wouldn't bounce off their real heads. It looked so shitty, and I was hoping it was going to reveal like somebody, like maybe Adam Rose was going to show up or something, but I don't know what. But that was so bad. That was really, really lame, and it took forever, and didn't pay off. But yeah, the match was all right.
Okay, look, like I said before, we're 6 matches in, and up to this point, I'm having a good time. I have no major complaints. A little disappointed, but only because they didn't kill Shane McMahon, and I wanted him killed for my son's amusement. I'm weird like that. But, taken as a match itself, it was entertaining enough, and everything at this point has made me super happy. And then we get the main event, which is Bianca Belair, who got the WrestleMania season push coming out of the Royal Rumble. I talked about this on Twitter, how I didn't love Bianca Belair when I first saw her in NXT. It's just, there's nothing against her. I didn't know her work. I didn't know her background. All I saw was this really athletic looking girl with the long braid, who's bragging about how great she is. And I'm like, eh. Mm-hmm. But then you actually watch her work and you see how athletic she is and how powerful. And this is an athlete-based entertainment medium. Yeah. So when people look good and are physically entertaining, like, they should win you over. And that's what's happened with Bianca Belair. Bianca Belair, through sheer, whether or not she's won matches or lost matches, her performance has been great over the last couple of years, and she deserves everything that she's gotten up to this point. And I was super excited to see her take on Sasha Banks, who I know Sasha Banks is a lot of people's favorite. I've always thought she's a little klutzy. She's a dainty little thing. She's klutzy. She's not Shotzi Blackheart klutzy, but, I mean, she looks like you look at her, like, compared to Charlotte or Bayley. Like, those are some pretty thick women, who look like athletes. Bianca Belair looks like an athlete. Shayna Basler was an actual athlete. She may be on the shorter side, but she was an MMA fighter. I'm not taking anything away from Shayna Basler. So, like, there are women in the WWE who look like athletes, and I'm super into them. And then you have Sasha Banks, who looks like she could be a model, and I get, like, her look, and I get, she does the moves well enough. And she's had some pretty stellar matches, but I've never bought into Sasha Banks as a legit wrestler. I just haven't. She's a gimmick, and she taps into something that the fans favor. But when I look at her, I think any half a dozen women on that roster could kick the living shit out of her. And to me, she's not believable. And there's nothing about her gimmick. Like, she never has a heavy. She never has a heater. She never has somebody. She doesn't, like, hide brass knucks in her in her gear to hit people with. Like, she's just somehow winning matches based on her physicality. That, to me,
that's because she's a legit boss.
Yeah, I don't want to hear it.
But it's boss time.
Yeah, but do you see what I'm saying, though? Like,
oh yeah,
the thing about this match was, I wanted Bianca Belair to win. She should win. She did win, and that's great. Yeah. I didn't see a threat from Sasha Banks, other than in the back of my mind, somebody in the back, gives her lots of wins and and thinks she's a star.
You got to keep her happy, or else she's gonna go back and cry.
Yeah, exactly.
Show the boo boo face. Yeah.
But what did you think of this match? I just wanted to give that preamble to kind of give you where my head was with it.
Thank God Reginald didn't show up.
Mm-hmm.
I was expecting that, because that was. Yeah, this match built itself after the Rumble there. You have two people who want to prove that they're the best, and they kept adding shit to it. It took me right back to WrestleMania 14 with where it's like, okay, we have Shawn, Austin, and Mike Tyson's going to be the enforcer here, but now we're going to have Mike Tyson join DX for reasons. It's like, why are we adding to this? Right. We don't need this wrinkle. Everything was perfect. We don't need this extra bullshit. And I don't think we needed a lot of the bullshit that led up to this match with Sasha and Bianca, because it distracted from what the match should actually be. Thankfully, they kind of pushed that all aside, and this match was exactly what it needed to be here. It was a competition by two people who want to be the best. And it was a hell of a match. It really, really was. And it was one that I could buy into, and I had a sneaking suspicion that Bianca was going to win, but at the same time, it wouldn't have surprised me if she didn't. They have Sasha playing like a soft heel. She's only really a heel in this feud. She's still a babyface, sorta, but here she's, the one who's mocking Bianca for being a rookie and being inexperienced and not as good as she proclaims herself to be. Very, very good. Both of their hair really distracts from the match.
I liked a lot of the spots with Bianca Belair's hair because have you ever watched like female MMA fighters? When they're doing shoots or when they're just not in a cage, they have very pretty hair. They do their makeup, they look lovely. They're obviously not going to do any of that stuff in a real fight, which is kind of the funny thing about pro wrestling. Because they all dolled up and do stuff with their hair and whatever. Like you're about to have a fight. But they also all cornrow their hair. Like,
sure.
They don't even do ponytails. It's literally all braided.
Yeah. But it's like here, I was afraid that Sasha was going to yank it off her head. Mm-hmm. Because, most of it is not real. We've seen pictures of her without it. Of Bianca, that is. And Sasha's hair is always, like, slipping around. So it's like... the whole time I'm like, oh, this is you want the moment, right? It's like she's gonna pull her hair right out of her head. It's not gonna be good.
And you're gonna have Bianca like chasing her around. Give me back my weave.
Yeah, that kind of kills the gimmick a little bit. But the thing built to Sasha taking a whip with the hair.
Yep.
Holy shit! Windows shattered.
Yeah.
In Tampa.
Dude, she got a gash. And she got a gash in a really bad place. Open. Yeah, she got a gash on the side of her belly.
Oh my God! It was like that giant skeleton, that was looming over the stadium, sliced at her. It was just brutal.
I thought her kidney or liver was gonna fall out.
Oh man, that I'm sure that stung like a motherfucker in the shower that night. But very, very good match. Very good match. Perfect way to end the first night. Bianca. She's still new to the business, or still new to the main roster, I should say. She's only been here for a year or so. Having such a small division, relatively speaking, and putting the main title on someone who's still so new, I always have a problem with that because okay, well now what's next?
Right.
Because I remember I grew up in the era of the boyhood dream. You have Shawn working for years and years and years, and Austin working for years and years and years, and finally getting the title. Here we've got people coming up straight out of NXT. Give them the belt, then what?
Yeah.
Okay, well now I need to be a 25-time champion. Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, it's all about the feuds.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something, Chris. This was a tale of two WrestleManias. The first night was near perfect. Great.
Very good.
And had it ended there, I'd be on the review the next day, be like, oh, it was great. Wow, they found their way back. I love wrestling again. The day is I am reborn. This is wonderful.
I'm a born-again WWE Universe member.
That's right. And then the second night happened. But before we talk about that, I just want to remind everybody that we have a link to get you a free 30 days of Amazon Music. If you like Chris and you like the Yacht Rock, if you like, the Cheeseburger in Paradise, who's that? The Cheeseburger in Paradise. The Yacht Rock, Cheeseburger in Paradise, Hawaiian shirts.
You mean Just Another Day in Paradise? Bertie Higgins?
No, damn it. This would have gone so much better if I could have actually remembered the artist's name. If you're into Yacht Rock...
If you like Michael McDonald or Christopher Cross or Kenny Loggins...
There we go. Cheeseburger. Jimmy Buffett, for fuck's sake.
That's not Yacht Rock. That's shit.
This is a great plug.
You can listen to shit.
If you listen to Jimmy Buffett, all of these great musicians that Chris has just mentioned are all on Amazon Music. You can go ahead and check out a free 30 days of Amazon Music and stream all you want. It's one of the best music services out there. I highly recommend it. Go ahead and click our link at getamazonmusic.com/W2M Network. Getamazonmusic.com/W2M Network. Get your free 30 days of Amazon Music and stream. If you don't like Jimmy Buffett, you don't like Christopher Cross, there's other things on there. You can do like I do. You can listen to the White Zombie. You can listen to the Rob Zombie. You can listen to the Imperial Teen, Faith No More, all these bands that we talk about in the Metal Hammer of Doom, and even the ones we don't. They're all there waiting for you and stuff. Hey, we did a show. You'll hear it sometime in the future. I played Incredible Hulk. Cannibal Hulk. That's what it was. I played Cannibal Hulk for Chris, and I didn't even know there was a Cannibal Hulk, but I found it, and I played it for him. Why? Because of AmazonMusic.com. Cannibal Hulk. All right.
Can you get Amazon Music wet or feed it after midnight?
Yes.
Oh, good.
You can get it really wet. Listen, night 2.
Nice 2.
So I made the mistake of the archives from Blog Talk Radio from way back in 2006 to when I quit using it in 2018. Around the time of Black Panther, when that came out, the movie with Chadwick Boseman.
They made a Black Panther movie?
That you've heard of none of these things. I know that. But that's when I made the change. That's the first show that showed up on my Spreaker feed. And so between 2006 and 2018, early 2018, I have over a decade worth of podcasts that I didn't have access to previously. We have access to them now, and we're re-releasing them now on W2M. And I'm slowly but surely putting up some of these shows as the weeks go on in the future. And I figured I had some time, knowing that there was no kickoff match, so I had the kickoff on, but I wasn't watching it. And then I figure, okay, 8 o'clock will come, and I'll stop doing this. Let's just say I ran into the technical difficulties, and these technical difficulties had me having a meltdown, and I'm having this meltdown as WrestleMania is starting. Here's the other thing. My family and I have decided, now my daughter's home from her sleepover, and my family and I have decided we're going to do 3. We're going to do 3 commentaries tonight, because Randy Orton versus The Fiend should be balls out bananas. Mm-hmm. Kevin Owens has to jump off that pirate ship. Come on. If Shane McMahon doesn't jump off the pirate ship, Kevin Owens is definitely jumping off the pirate ship. Mm-hmm. And Apollo Crews and Big E are having a garbage fight. Okay. So
fight.
Garbage. So 3 matches that should be wildly entertaining and should get good reactions from my wife and kids. And there obviously won't be blood because it's the WWE, but we should see lots of fun nonsense that, would be entertaining to listen to us react to.
Sure.
And I'm thinking, surely they won't start with Randy Orton versus The Fiend. Like, we'll get Nyah Jax and Shayna Basler versus Natalya and Tamina, or we'll get Sheamus and Riddle first, or maybe even Rhea Ripley and Asuka to kick off the night. I'm having technical difficulties. My mics are all, in a pouch, in a knot. I'm not ready for shit at this point. And the first thing I hear as WrestleMania begins, I hear voices in my head. They talk to me. You ever just want to pick up your entire living room and throw it out the window?
Sure.
I'm so mad. I'm scrambling to mic my family, and my wife's like, calm down. I'm like, no. The irony of this was I'm thinking
it took 300 years for the match to start?
That, and I'm like, I wish I could pause this. If I could just pause it, then I could get myself set up. I wouldn't get crazy, and we'll unpause it, and we'll watch it, and it'll be fine and an enjoyable experience for my family. And I'm like, but I can't pause it. You can pause it now. Did you know that?
Oh, you can?
Yeah, I figured that out later.
Okay.
Something happened, and somebody hit the remote or something, and it paused. And I'm looking at my wife, I'm like, did they just pause the show? And I'm like, yeah, they did. And I let it play, and then I hit pause again. I'm like, motherfuckers, put out a press release.
We fixed the shit that should have been fixed before we started this.
So I just wanted to tell that story so that I could explain to you my mindset going into Randy Orton versus The Fiend. Now, listen. I said before at Fastlane, rather, that Randy Orton versus Alexa Bliss was a wizard's duel that they should have just leaned into. And if if the big finish was Randy Orton in a wizard's duel with The Fiend, I'm like, okay, I'm here for it. I'm here for the silliness. I'm here for the stupidity. Needless to say, this match was so disappointing and so underwhelming that me, who throws up everything I record, non-edited, I throw up any old garbage, no matter how it sounds. Because content. I deleted our recording of our commentary for this. That's how bad this match was. It was over, and I sent it to myself, and I went to go post it, and my wife just looked at me, and she was like, "Don't. It was terrible." I'm like, "You're right. Delete."
Oh boy.
Your thoughts, sir, on Randy Orton versus The Fiend?
Now, I like what WWE is doing in legitimizing the opening match on the card here, making it something that people want to not kind of shit on. You know, like this isn't we're out of the era of jerking the curtain where it's like, you're the opening match guy. Here we are. I mean,
we're quite a long ways from Tito Santana versus the Executioner.
100%. Yeah. So we started last night with the WWE title match. Now we've got this sort of marquee match. Randy Orton's a big time player in the Fed. So I like that they're legitimizing the opening match of the card. That said, going into this, it's like we wondered, how is the Fiend going to wrestle all burned up, right?
Right.
Well, they took that off the board pretty quick here. They had him be reborn via CGI.
Yep.
And it's like, well, what? So, huh? Okay, so he's a fat juggalo again. Great.
In a flak jacket, like Roman Reigns.
With a flak jacket, yeah. He's a shield juggalo. But it's like, we have that happen. Randy comes out. He's not coughing up any black stuff. So it's like, okay, so that's done. Then they did the thing that, they do when there's no crowd, where they focus, where they don't show something, Mm-hmm. They didn't show the box-like structure next to the ring. It's a jack in the fucking box. Michael Cole would not stop calling it a box-shaped structure or something like that.
Okay, so because we were doing the commentary, I didn't hear him do that. Was he really calling it a box-like structure?
Yes.
It's a jack in the box.
It's a box. Yeah, you could say it's a box. It reminded me like Double Dare. It's like, you're going to be hit with a milk-like substance. What? Is it
My wife and I
were
were doing.
I don't know.
My wife and I were doing like fucking jerk off jokes with that. We were like, "Oh, crank it, Alexis! Yeah, crank that box." You don't have to disguise it. We know what it is.
But it's like they didn't show it on camera, and then Alexa gets down there and it's like, "Wait, what is this thing?" It's like, dude, it's been there for a half hour. Come on, shit. But Alexa cranks it. The Fiend comes out of the box and was instantly over, of course. And then we had a really shitty match.
Yeah.
And then Alexa was in the box, dripping black shit off the top of her head. The Fiend looked at her, got RKO'd, and lost. What? And then the lights go out. The lights go back on. The Fiend's gone. The crowd boos the shit out of it to the point where when they replayed it later in the night, they had to take the boos out. What is this?
So there have been articles. I haven't read any of them because if you have to, I have a personal issue with a lot of the comic blog sites where, like, the ending to Captain America explained. Like, I don't need your fucking explanation. If it wasn't handled appropriately in the movie, then it wasn't handled right at all. I don't need you explaining it to me.
You won't believe number 7. What?
Yeah, the ending to Civil War explained. Go fuck yourself. Like, just stop with your commenting on these stupid movies. And so it was the same thing here. Like, I don't want to have to go to WWE.com to read an explanation as to what I just saw. It's fucking wrestling. It shouldn't be that hard. This doesn't happen in the UFC. Like, someone gets knocked out, like, and now go to UFC.com to hear what happened after the bell. Like what? Get the fuck out of here. So, no, I don't... If what you showed on television wasn't coherent, I'm not interested in your aftermath explanations. I don't give a shit.
And I mean, now that there's no more Backlash. I'm sure you've heard Backlash is not even a pay-per-view anymore. Now it's WrestleMania Backlash.
Yup.
So now it's like they're leaning into the fact that WrestleMania isn't for blow-offs. It's like we've known that for years, but now it's just like, yeah, fuck it. WrestleMania is just another show. Mm-hmm. We're gonna build stories here. We're not gonna end anything.
I remember around WrestleMania 15 where WrestleMania 14 was X-rated. Get it? Because DX X-rated. Yeah. RAIDED.
Yeah, raid. Yeah.
They were making porn. Mm-hmm. They were pointing at porn. People yell at me for making porn jokes. They were doing it before I was. X-rated.
Mm-hmm.
You know what the subheading for WrestleMania 15 was?
This WrestleMania sucks a lot?
No, the Ragin Climax.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
They were referring to it as the season finale.
Mm-hmm. And an orgasm.
That too. They were really into sex back then. WrestleMania 16 was known as Come On Face.
Yes. WrestleMania X7 Bukkake.
Damn it, you beat me to it. Exactly where I was going. Anyway, so
WrestleMania 19 Cleveland Steamer. What?
WrestleMania 20 Angry Dragon.
21 Dirty Sanchez.
WrestleMania 22 Rusty Trombone. Moving on.
24 Dick and Ass.
WrestleMania 25 Gang Bang. All right. Yes, sir. So, yeah, we hit in since WrestleMania 15, we seem to have abandoned the idea that WrestleMania is the end of all things and the beginning of new things. It's just another day.
It is.
All right. So we were agreed then the Randy Orton and the Fiend was unnecessarily overcomplicated for this stupid product and it was bad.
Oh God! I mean, and it had so many. It had possibilities. It could. I mean, you got your whole family mic'd up. It could have been fun.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting it to be great, but it was going to be fun, and it wasn't. No. It wasn't good. It wasn't fun. It didn't answer any questions. It made us ask questions that we don't give a fuck about. That's it.
And it really did set the tone for the rest of the night, because as great as Night 1 was, Night 2 doesn't get any better. Nyah Jax and Shayna Basler defeated Natalya and Tamina. Tamina wasn't wearing a hefty garbage bag tonight. She actually looked pretty good. Looked like a big, thick, athletic woman. She didn't look like her back was broken, and she was just sort of plodding around the ring. And I expected high things from this. I know like Natalya and Tamina are not fan favorites, but Natalya
they were tonight.
Natalya has been in the WWE for 100 years and can work, and Tamina for a while couldn't work because I think of health issues, but she seemed like she had her shit together tonight. And so I figure between these four hard-hitting, brutal athletes, we were going to see a good match here. And you had the one Superfly off-the-top rope thing from Tamina, and the rest of it was just kind of meh. What'd you think?
Yeah. Tamina works 5 matches a year?
Yes,
right?
Most of them in a garbage bag.
Yeah, so in her time off here, that is, 360 days, can someone teach her how to do a Superfly splash? Please? I mean, there's more to it than climbing to the top rope and falling on someone.
Yeah.
Her Superfly splash sucks. But she was over. People were chanting Tamina for the first time what'd she show up at, 2008, 2009?
Yep.
She's been here for a very long time, and this is the first time anybody's ever said her name in the crowd, so good for her on that. I don't know why we had this match, because it really didn't do anything. I don't know that we're going to have – I mean, I don't get the feeling that this feud must continue, because who cares? I don't think this helped anybody.
No. This was a throwaway match. This was
thank you to Natalya and Tamina.
Yeah, this was for He's a Jolly Good Fellow match.
This is the gold watch, yeah.
The employee appreciation match. Mm-hmm. I said this on Twitter about it. I was like, and I referred to the whole night, but this was sort of emblematic of the whole thing. This felt like a episode of Raw.
I was going to say, Raw rolls on after this.
Next match, another one that we mic'd the family for because, come on, pirate ship bump, let's do it. Come on, Kevin Owens, you've jumped off of fucking everything else. Let's go. Also, and I talked about this when we did the commentary, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn have feuded for 1,000 years. They feud in the Ring of Honor. People chant fight forever, and they do. And so I was like, these two guys should put on a fucking brutal, violent match. And that was the other thing I was hoping to capture with the commentary. And then Logan Paul was there, and I'm like, okay, well, just for podcast purposes, that's a good one to kind of throw the hashtag on there. Seeing as also his brother is in a boxing match this weekend with Ben Askren. Plug. So anyway, I'm like, all right, come on, man. There's no way they can fuck this up. This was less than 10 minutes. This one needed to... the girls' match was 15 minutes long.
Yeah.
Ripley and Asuka was over 10 minutes long. They gave these guys just less than 10... Fucking Riddle and Sheamus is over 10 minutes long. Mm-hmm. This one got less than 10 minutes. Why don't you just piss in Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn's mouth at this point? Like, I mean, granted, people are like, why are you so mad that Kevin Owens didn't, like, he just had a whole 3-month-long feud with Roman Reigns. He's getting plenty. Like, it just feels like he got that because they needed someone for Roman Reigns to wrestle. It had less to do with Kevin Owens. And then they gave him a showcase spot here, and then they don't do anything with it. Yeah. So him and Sami Zayn have just a regular Royal match. Logan Paul does nothing. And then there's no pirate ship bump.
Nope.
And then Logan Paul gets in the ring, and they do the Austin thing, only it sucked. The Austin thing being the celebrity goes to shake Austin's hand, but he's the rattlesnake, so he gives him the stunner. Why?
DTA, don't never trust nobody.
That's not Kevin Owens' character. Kevin Owens' character is that he's a fighter. He's a brawler. He fights forever. KO. Get it? Mm-hmm. He's not the don't trust. He's not Steve. He's not Fat Steve Austin. Stop making him into Fat Steve Austin. Your thoughts, sir?
This was the safety match. They had nothing for Owens. They had nothing for Zayn. And it's like, hey, these guys work well together. We want to give them a match on Mania. Let's do it. It reminds me of like when Daniel Bryan was world champion and CM Punk was WWE champion. And it's like, hey, we've got 20 minutes we need to fill on Raw. Why don't we just throw them in there? Oh, okay. And they would have a match because it was the safety match. It was a match they knew they didn't have to think much about. And that's basically what we got here. This was like a paint-by-numbers Sami KO match that we've seen, like you mentioned, 100 times before, at least 100 times before on WWE TV alone. And the only wrinkle here was like that every few seconds they'd pop over to Logan Paul, who looked like he looked like he was watching someone shit in a urinal. He's just like, he's like, huh? It was just so, it didn't live up to what it could have been. These two guys know each other inside and out. They could have done something spectacular. They didn't get the time, clearly.
Yeah. This was another one where, like, if the WWE would just get out of the way and let the wrestlers wrestle, it could have been phenomenal. It
could have been. But I think this was just like a, hey, guys, this is your time. Just put on a standard match. Don't make any waves. Don't overshadow anything else. Just go out there and be safe. And that's exactly what they did, which it is what it is.
Next match, 10 minutes, 50 seconds. Sheamus defeated Riddle. I feel like Riddle was supposed to win this, but then he forgot his lines on Raw, and they were like, "You're a fucking idiot. Let's not. you're going to main event for a while till your brain grows back, you moron." Riddle had so much potential. Riddle, I remember talking about this with you guys when he was in NXT, and he was like one of the high points of NXT. And
sure,
like he could put on brutal blood sport, grappling, MMA style matches, and he just had the goofy demeanor. But that but considering he was a pothead even in the UFC, like that's fine. He was basically the new version of Rob Van Dam. Which boy did they make a parent of that at WrestleMania?
Oh Lord,
because they had to put the two of them in a skit together.
Yeah, with rolling papers, too.
Yep. But, and I said I hope nobody notices that he's on NXT because they're going to ruin him on the main roster. That was a year ago?
Yeah, and now he's riding a scooter down to the ring, and the only word he says is bro.
And he's ruined. He's awful. I can't even watch him wrestle. And it's
not great.
Yeah, and I totally feel like they put the title on Sheamus to punish him for fucking up and just, it might not just be because of the thing he did with Asuka. It might be who knows what. And maybe it's not a punishment, but it certainly feels that way. In any case, he moonsaulted into a kick into a bro kick, and Sheamus won the title. I barely even watched this match. I don't care.
The ending was fucking brutal. Oh boy, Sheamus landed that fucking kick, busted Riddle's face wide open. I can still watch Riddle. I don't watch Raw very often.
Right.
So I mean, I see him on pay-per-views when they bother to put him on a pay-per-view, and every time out, he's impressive in the ring. It's just everything else. The package
they added birds
sucks.
to when he kicks his slippers off.
God damn, me and my brother-in-law were watching that and we're like, holy shit, what was that? He kicks the flip-flops and then a flock of doves come flying toward the screen. It's like, why?
They added choo-choo noises to Braun Strowman's run around the ring and doves to Riddle. People are bored in the WWE truck these days.
Like, I mean, what is that even supposed to represent, the birds? I mean, I kept thinking of like Taz having like an orgasm when Velvet Sky would like bend over and climb into the ring and be like, let the pigeons go. It's like, what the fuck is this? It was just, that is so dumb.
Because I'm just now picturing that. I'm picturing like Melina does that split, and just jumps fly out her ass.
So bad. Not as bad as when like the Usos would come out and like the jail bars would come down because they were in the Uso penitentiary, which became less funny when they were actually arrested, but or more funny, I should say.
It's a little on the nose.
A little bit. But the match was fine. I'm glad they're doing something with Sheamus here. I've always enjoyed Sheamus, and I think since he's moved over to Raw and did like his proper heel turn here, he's just been a savage, brutal guy, and real snug, as is definitely illustrated by the finish of this match. I don't think I've ever seen someone moonsaulting into a pump kick, which, I mean, they did it. They did it really, really well. And when it happened, it was so smooth that I'm like, oh, crap, Riddle's going to kick out at 2 and just fucking squash it. But no, he didn't. Sheamus got the belt. I think after the work he's put in this year, I think he's earned a secondary title. Why not? And I think he's nice as a upper mid card heavy heel. So I was happy with the ending here. I don't know what you do with Riddle. I really don't know. They need to, I don't know if he has the acting chops to not be the bro guy.
Right.
Can they add layers? Should they add layers to his character, first of all? And
I was like, can he be serious? Can't he be serious?
Exactly. I mean, we know Rob Van Dam can kind of be.
Rob Van Dam would get pissed if he were in the right feud.
Get passionate.
Yeah. Because he was a laid back guy, but you could piss him off. He was a human being.
Sure. Where Riddle's a cartoon character.
Yeah.
Speaking
of cartoon characters. So my wife is the person who booed Disney for taking out the Siamese cats in Lady and the Tramp. She's the person who boos, the idea that women never tell lies, and she's not a feminist. She's she's all for treating women equal and decently, but she's not like girls first.
The future is female.
Yeah, she's the kind of person she has sort of conservative leanings. And she's not into cancel culture. She's not into any of that stuff. She thinks the point that I'm trying to make is she's not one to pick up on, oh, that's offensive. Mm-hmm. And then Apollo Crews walked out with a spear. And
was that a spear? It looked like he had an hourglass at the end of that thing.
It might have been in a SmackDown before, but considering that whatever staff he was holding, staff of Raw, I don't know, but he walked out. And our whole commentary is her commenting on the fact that love my wife, Kofi Kingston, she was get in trouble. I'm like, I don't think he got in trouble for it. I think people just thought it was stupid. Didn't he get in trouble for mimicking a Jamaican accent for a while? Yeah, that was his gimmick, and then they gave up on it. And she's like, why is Apollo Crews suddenly talking like Black Panther? And why is he carrying a big staff? And it's she looked at this, and the point is, this is not something she would normally say, but she was like, this seems mildly offensive. And I'm like, you're not wrong. But, he seems to be wanting to do it. It's
his old gimmick, but yeah.
Oh, okay. This is what he was before he was Apollo Crews?
I'm pretty sure this is the Uha Nation gimmick.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, I guess it's less offensive if he's the one that's offering to do it of his own volition.
Well, I mean, where else was he going to go as the smiling babyface?
Yeah. I'm trying to think of somebody else who did this sort of thing in the WWE, and I'm like, well, if it's there,
Tony Atlas,
Saba Simba, damn it. I would think another version. No, okay, enough. Another version of this would be what's his face?
Kerwin White,
the Indian dude. I'm switching tracks. Everyone hated him as the SmackDown champion.
Oh, Jinder.
Yeah, Jinder Mahal. Jinder Mahal kind of doing this, this is my ethnicity, I'm going to play it up, and I'm going to be, big evil royalty from my ethnicity.
Turn it up to 11.
Yeah, and if Apollo Crews is, doing that of his own volition, it's, whatever, sure. Anyway, He had a garbage match with Big E, and this was Big E's moment. Big E, as my wife kept bringing up, graduated from a high school here in Tampa, which she was mad as fuck, by the way. Dude, we started off with her just complaining endlessly about how Big E didn't graduate from that prep school. He graduated from Wharton High. The same school that her and her brother went to, and she was mad as hell that they didn't bring that up. Like, bad matches, she don't care. But goddammit, acknowledge Wharton High School.
Acknowledge me, recognize my school.
That's right. All right, everyone listening to this is just like, I'm glad, like, whatever, man. Just talk about the match. Well, the match. Less than 7 minutes. I mean, like, if you're going to do a hardcore match, do a hardcore match. Like, fuck it up. I mean, there were drums around. We were like, what's a Nigerian drum fight? Like, well, clearly, maybe you have to do something with the drums, or maybe they'll use the drums in some way. I don't even think they touched the drums. Like,
no, they got thrown into them. That's it.
Yeah, they did the one. They tried to do the one shot with the gong, but they got kicked out of Big E's hand, and that was the last you saw of any gimmickry around the ring. The rest of it was just them brawling on the outside.
The traditional Nigerian kendo sticks.
Yes, there were a lot of that,
and the traditional Nigerian folding table.
And traditional Nigerian chair shots.
Yep. Yeah, and me and my brother-in-law were referring, we were like, that gong has got to play into the ending, and my brother-in-law's like, yeah, it's Chekhov's gong. It's like, okay, they have it there, they got to use it, and no, they didn't.
Nope, they didn't. Like, it was there, it was begging for someone to have their head thrown into it. Yep.
Yeah.
We all remember the toilet shot on McMahon in the hospital.
Yep.
And how great of a sound it made. Because they wouldn't let it go for years on end.
Yeah, they still show the fucking thing, but it was a garbage match, a traditional Nigerian garbage match. I guess I don't know.
It was too short. They did nothing. It was a huge waste of both guys. Like, both of them are big, meaty, muscular, fucking hot guys too.
Yeah, with crazy ability.
And they wrestle like two indie mud show skinny guys.
That's it. Yeah. I mean, Apollo, that motherfucker can fly. He can do all sorts of crazy, like, gravity-defying things for a guy with his frame. And they're just not doing it. And, and they end it with Big E hitting the big ending, right? And then Babatunde comes out.
Yeah, I had no idea who, because I haven't watched Raw in a few years. I had no idea who he was.
He was on the Raw Underground, and actually he debuted at an NXT house show that I went to here in Phoenix, and where he was basically booed out of the building because because like they played like a vignette for him before he came in, and like he's walking through the streets of Phoenix in the middle of the night, and like people are coming up to him and asking for his autograph. Like they know who he is. And so the entire crowd was like, who the fuck are you? Who the fuck are you? And it's like, oh, God, there are kids here, and we're being like ECW mutants here. He comes out, and he gets this who the fuck are you chant. He loses his match to Cameron Grimes, and then he fucks off. We don't ever see him again until Raw Underground. But then he comes out here in a marching band outfit.
Yeah, I thought he was from the Truth Commission.
Oh, and like they gave him a jacket that was like four sizes too small. So like every time he did a move, he'd have to tug on it.
He kept tugging on, like Ronda Rousey tugging on her like her top, like or her shorts. Like Ronda Rousey always felt uncomfortable in clothing. Apparently, she's always tugging on it. That's what he was doing.
Yep, it looked so bad. He had these like tassels on his shoulder, and it's like this is like a 7-foot dude, and he looked like a band geek.
Yeah, he should have pulled the tuba out of his ass.
He should have.
It stuffed Biggie into it. Yeah. Baba Tuba. They've been a better gimmick. This sucked. And by this point, we're now into match 5, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 matches in a row that have either sucked or underwhelmed. Yeah. I am done with night 2 of WrestleMania. I am done talking to my family. I am done recording with my family. I don't give a shit anymore.
If they just showed Riddle getting kicked in the face over and over again for the next 20, 30 minutes, it'd be fine.
Dude, my daughter, who watches all the women's matches, was like, I don't even want to watch any more of this. I'm going to bed.
Peace out. Can you send me to bed early?
Yeah, she really did. She was like, can I go to bed without supper? Thanks. I'm like, but Rhea Ripley, Asuka. She's like, I don't give 2 shits and a fuck. Good night, sir. And off she went. My son's on his phone. My wife's on her phone. We were so checked out after this. Because, like, the disappointment in how bad this match was palpable.
Yeah.
And you're not going to find a bigger fan of Big E than my wife because they went to the same high school. I don't ask.
I thought you went to a prep school.
Shut up. And she was like, that's all they gave him after all that. If this is his home fucking like we were talking about Titus O'Neil 100 hours ago and how they give him nothing, but at least you got to be in his hometown and and
Poor
do
Big
stuff.
E's wearing a feed Tampa Bay singlet.
Oh my god, my wife wouldn't shut the fuck up about that either. She was like, "Oh,
kill the guy who's trying to feed the poor."
Yeah, this not only was it bad and underwhelming, it was also tone deaf. Like, good God.
And
all right.
God, Wale messing up the lip syncing for Big E. Wale sang him out. I didn't know who Wale was, but I heard from the announcer that he's legendary and iconic, so I'm assuming he is.
Sure. I kept making Wally jokes from like the Pixar movie.
Holy shit, and he's like lip syncing, but like he took the mic away from his face, but he keeps singing. It's like, oh shit, dude, get the camera off this guy now.
Rhea Ripley had her WrestleMania moment. If you'll remember,
she was sang out too, and we found out how awful her song is.
Yeah,
holy shit!
It's good for the 30 seconds it takes to get her to the ring.
Yeah, just say the brutality part, and just do like random, like generic, like Saved by the Bell rock music. Get her to the ring and just stop.
Yeah,
we don't need 5 minutes of it.
So last year I complained that Rhea Ripley got beat by Charlotte, and that was her moment. But no crowd. It was in a garage. It's fine. So this year they couldn't give her Charlotte to beat because Charlotte's either pregnant or got COVID or her boyfriend quit. I don't know which one it is.
She showed up on Raw last night.
I've heard. Yeah. But she got pulled from WrestleMania for any variety of reasons. Jim Cornette gave a rational explanation for more or less what happened in my flip one. Either way, she wasn't there. So in Charlotte's place, putting over Rhea Ripley, finally in front of a crowd and giving her WrestleMania moment as she deserves, was Asuka. It was okay. It was probably the best match of the night. The second best match of the night. 13 minutes and 30 seconds. And they were fine. They put on a good match. It was solid. I think because I was in such a mood after the last 5 matches that I wasn't as into this as I wanted to be. But I shouldn't take anything away from the girls. The girls did fine. What do you think?
Yeah, Asuka's like she's like the new Ric Flair here. Like they can always just count on her to put somebody over if they need it, and if they need her to be the person over, she can do it. She could do anything. Unfortunately, that doesn't extend to making Rhea Ripley not look sloppy. Because the ending here was very, very sloppy, very underwhelming. And also, I mean, this feud was born out of Rhea Ripley debuting on Raw and pointing to a fucking sign. Where do we go from here? We move her up, we give her the main title. Now what?
I've always wanted to be a wrestler. I think I'm going to just jump into the ring and point at the sign, because then they automatically have to give me a match.
It's a law. It's in the Constitution.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand they want to push Rhea, but now what? She's champion. What do we do from here? She's just going to come out and say, hey, I'm champion now, and then, like, someone's going to walk out and challenge her.
She fights Charlotte. That's what she does. Until they put the belt. Charlotte and Rhea Ripley are kind of like Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior. Let's get the belt where it needs to be. We gave the kid a chance. It's been 5 minutes, and we still focused on you. And you weren't even here.
I was actually half expecting Becky's music to start at the end of that match here.
Yeah.
Like, oh crap, here comes Hogan. But it was an okay match. Asuka's held the belt for a very long time. Really, what more can she do with it? Yeah. And that's just another.
And they gave her the belt because Becky Lynch had to go home because she was pregnant.
Yeah, they just handed it to her. They didn't even put it up in a tournament or anything, which they probably should have done just to legitimize the reign.
Right.
But at any time, Becky could have come back and been like, hey, you never beat me for it, which I think they were probably banking on. Mm-hmm. But didn't look like it happened.
What they should have done was they should have had a tournament for one half of an Asuka match. And then, Asuka had the Money in the Bank. The Money in the Bank will be cashed in at the next pay-per-view, and you'll automatically be inserted into that match, and we'll have a tournament to figure out who your opponent is.
Yeah.
That might have actually built up a fucking feud.
Sure, absolutely. And they didn't do that. And, it's another indictment on how shallow the women's division is here. And I mean, I'm not exactly begging for a secondary women's title because, I mean, we have a lot of freaking titles. But, I mean, you give them the main belt, and then what do they do for the rest of their fucking career?
Yeah.
Except try to get the same belt over and over again.
All right. Speaking of the same belt over and over again was the triple threat match. This match made me miss the old stupid... I put this on Twitter. The big stupid entrances. You know, John Cena driving a car into the Detroit WrestleMania. The 900 John Cenas in whatever WrestleMania that was.
Rusev's tank. You know, all of Triple H's cosplay. Terminator.
Yeah. I miss all that. Oh yeah, that was the one in Chicago. It was the first time they did it, and that's the one where CM Punk was one of the goons that came to the ring with Cena when he fired off a Tommy gun. Yep. I used to make fun of those things. Now I kind of miss them because Roman Reigns just walked in. Yeah. Hello. I'm Roman Reigns.
Are they doing an effect with him when he comes in, like where they're blurring the background?
I don't know. I know it was someone mentioned it was the only other time they used the 3D effect.
Okay, that must have been it then, because like he looks like he's in your fucking living room. I mean, I'm like, did Riddle blow some smoke in my face or something here? What am I seeing? Because like, the background
this is a moment in my living room.
Yeah, it's like the background goes blurry and Roman is just like there, super focused. It's like, holy shit, that's a weird effect. I liked it, but it was just like really kind of weird when I wasn't expecting it.
So this match ends with Roman Reigns literally stacking Old Man Edge on top of Daniel Bryan and pinning them both. Should have. All right. I thought it was a little on the nose. I thought it was a bit ridiculous that, like, I expected Daniel Bryan to take the pin, and I think what should have happened was Edge should have been taken out on the outside in some sort of brutal fashion, and then, you know, Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan do 2 minutes, Daniel Bryan gets taken out and he gets pinned, and, you know, Roman Reigns is champion. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with him winning. Because when I complained about this, people were like, oh, get over it. You know, Roman Reigns is the best thing going right now. I'm not arguing that. I'm saying stacking them on top of each other was a bit overboard.
But it wasn't a clean win. He had help. It was basically a weird triple threat handicap match.
Well, yeah, he always has. He's got the one effective goon.
Yeah, he's got the right hand. What's his face? But I mean, I thought this was a really excellent ending. I like the stacking. I like Roman just being like, you know, go fuck yourself. And because I mean, this is something he can. His promos have just been fantastic. I mean, you had Daniel Bryan tapping him out, and he's like, no, I wasn't tapping out. I was doing Morse code to Paul Heyman. It's like, fuck, that's great. And here we can go back to, it's like, you guys challenged me. I stacked you, motherfuckers. You know, I think, because I mean, I don't want to see Edge with the belt.
No.
I don't want to. And Daniel Bryan, I mean, part of me is thinking like,
Is it weird that I agree with Triple H now that he's a B+ player?
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but
he is now.
But I would. I don't trust him.
Yeah.
You don't want to give him a moment and then him be like, "Fuck you, I'm going to AEW next year."
Yeah,
because I think he is.
Or I broke my neck again, or I'm having a kid.
I think he's going to fuck off. I think they were really burned by CM Punk, and I think Bryan is going to do something very similar. I think he's going to go to AEW so he can finally show the world what the WWE wouldn't let him do, and then he'll kill himself. So I wouldn't give him a belt. I wouldn't even put him in the main event here. But, you know, they did. Reigns winning the way he won. Perfect heel stuff here. Jey Uso coming in like 3 or 4 times to swing chairs. Great. Hitting super kicks with disguising the fact that he was slapping his thigh, which was good. Really no complaints about this match. This was probably the match of the night for me for the second night, and I think everybody played their role really well. Every time Daniel Bryan was backing up, I'm like, oh god, he's going to hit the ref, and then we're going to get the fuck you. But no, it didn't happen. So no, I dug this. It gives Bryan and Edge reasons to question the legitimacy of the win. It gives Roman a chance to brag about how definitively he sees himself winning. It's a win-win. Unfortunately, it means the feuds will continue, but it's a win-win for me.
So cut the tag team turmoil match from night 1 and cut matches 1 through 5 from night 2. And you've got 1,
pretty
2,
good Mania.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 matches that were fucking great. They were either good to great, and you have an amazing one-night WrestleMania. Perfect.
It's true. It's true. Hogan and Titus as the hosts. Cringe. A little bit.
Somebody put on Twitter, like, if you want to rejoin society, you should have to dress like an asshole. And put up a picture of Hogan in the pirate outfit. You know, he will do anything to get on camera and for people to like him. He is Homelander. I don't know if you watch The Boys, but that's Hogan. Hogan is Homelander. Please love me. All right, folks, that's 2 hours of our WrestleMania review coverage with the Hall of Fame and a lot of sidebars. Tomorrow we are doing our review of the original WrestleMania from 1985 with said Homelander and Hall of Famer Mr. T and the Hall of Famer Roddy Piper and
Cyndi Lauper.
And Cyndi Lauper, yes, and Paul Orndorff. So check out that. And then, despite the fact that I had to watch it on YouTube with the sound modulated, I did find a copy of No Holds Barred. You can't take that away from us, NBC Universal, as much as you try. So myself and Sean Comer will be doing an on trial for No Holds Barred. Also in the archives is our review of Resident Evil: Welcome to Earth. And then tonight we'll be reviewing the television show with Alan Tudyk that just ended. Did the season finale about a week or so ago. So we will look at the first season of the adaptation of the comic book, Resident Alien, the TV show. All right, go ahead and do your plugs and we'll get out of here.
Okie doke. You can find me at chrisandreggie.podbean.com on all your noise aggregation sites here, where I do X-Lapsed just about every single day up to episode 160-something at this point. Still not current on the books. Still got about a month to go, unless they release more books every week, which they seem to be doing because it's comics and that's what they do. You can also go to chrisisoninfiniteearths.com, where I'm writing articles again covering the lamentable Chuck Austin run of Uncanny X-Men from 2002, which, if folks are familiar with that, I know that cost Marvel a lot of X fans. They were not too pleased with the Chuck Austin run, which begins with a fish boy getting a face full of a white viscous fluid right to his face. Yeah, so it's like pretty much a sign of things to come, because that is basically the Austin run in a nutshell. So we're doing
Ragin
that.
Climax.
Oh, dude, there's so much banging in that run. It's
nice.
It's bad. So I'm having a good time revisiting that and making light of it. So that's every Sunday at chrisisoninfiniteearths.com. Every other day, blog notes, show notes, all that kind of stuff. You can find me on Twitter at Ace Comics.
All right, folks, that's it for our TV Party tonight, our review of WrestleMania and the Hall of Fame. I want to thank you for coming on. I'm Mark Radulich. Be well, be safe, and behave.